watch this?
How?
Ew,
How do you watch this? Dude, I'm gonna pee my pants. Hi, you're listening to How Do You Watch This?
A movie review podcast.
Just my brain shut down. It was like, you know what? I'm reading a script and I can't get through.
I can't read. Jared 19.
A movie review podcast where each week we give each other a movie to watch in the genre we love, but they don't. My name is Megan and I love romance.
My name is Demi and I love horror.
And this week's common thread or theme is comfort movie.
I'm so excited for this.
This one is going to be so for both of us. Last week was a rewatch for both of us. It was our very first time doing rewatches. But this one I feel like is the first time where we've rewatched it.
God knows how many times.
Yeah. It's been like I think we both have relationships with these movies.
Yeah.
So I
we
feel,
do.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna pre-warn everybody that it's about to be a long one.
This might be a long one just because we're so passionate.
Yeah.
Especially when we
about
discuss.
Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, because that's
it might get heated.
passionate for both of
Yes,
us. Very
yeah.
passionate.
Yeah. So Alien is the horror movie of the week, and Pride and Prejudice is the romance.
Yes.
Of course. For me, this was like super easy to come up with my comfort movie because Pride and Prejudice is I watch it at least 1 to 2 times a year.
Yeah. I mean, you have to have your Pride and Prejudice fill
Yes.
at least like twice a year.
I mean, minimum.
If you want to be happy.
Like literally, because I'm thinking to myself, okay, whenever I'm sick, I watch it.
Mm-hmm.
If I've got an especially bad period, I watch it.
Yeah.
And then if I'm just in like the mood.
Yeah.
So it's like that's my go-to rewatch movie.
Yeah.
Again and again.
Yeah. I don't remember when Alien became such a important movie for me.
Yeah.
I think it just like first of all, it's a great movie. And I think it's just such an easy watch. But every time I've watched it like on TV, it was always a marathon. So I'd end up watching all 4 of them in a row.
Shut up. Dude.
Even though the 4th one's really bad, I'd still watch it. But I just like love, especially the first one. The first 2 like are so good. And I don't know how many times I've watched Alien. But it feels, I think, nostalgic too. Like, you know, a lot of these movies I watched like with my mom. And like we watched, you know, like Alien, The Thing. Like a lot of those movies we watched a lot. So Alien is just like very great.
I can definitely see that because I think it was like me and my mom would watch Pride and Prejudice together, so I could see that thing, like that bond you have with your parent, and like it's just like it brings you back to that place.
Just like you want to put something on,
right?
It's like I'm gonna watch Alien.
Yeah.
I feel like watching some people get murdered, except
no big deal.
Except the smart woman and a cat.
Yep.
It was the best.
So good. I will say I've seen the first Alien and I've seen the modern Aliens.
Those are the only ones you've seen?
So I've seen Alien, Prometheus, and what's the third?
Alien Covenant.
Alien Covenant. So those are the only ones I've seen.
Megan, you have to see the second one.
I know. I'll watch it.
Okay.
I'll watch it just because for you.
Okay.
For
you would like it.
Yeah.
I think you would like it.
We'll find out.
I think it's a little more than the first one. The first one's definitely very kind of straightforward. There's only one. The second one is a little more intense.
Well, I really did like the newer ones. Like I liked
how
they brought back the backstory.
Yeah. I think you would. You have to. You're forced.
Okay. All right. Forced. We just watch it after. We're not recording this episode.
We're throwing it on right now.
So the genre is sci-fi horror. Online, like when I looked it up, it said drama sci-fi, but I feel like it definitely deserves the sci-fi horror.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's drama.
There's a jump scare that got me good.
Yeah.
Director Ridley Scott. And when that came up, I turned to Travis and I was like, that would be a great kid's name. And he was like, I could do it.
It's a good name.
I like Ridley.
Ridley. Yeah, it is a good name.
It's really cool. And at first he thought I was saying Ripley because that is, of course, the main character's name. So I don't know if that was a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they're both good names, but Ridley is like her last name, right?
No, Ripley.
Sorry, yeah,
Ripley.
Ridley
is the director's first name.
I was gonna say, I think Ridley sounds like a better name.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry to all the Ripleys listening.
It's still a good name. It's just a last name.
So the year release was 1979, and I don't know why I didn't realize it was so old.
Yeah.
Like when the opening scene came up with like the old school Fox logo, I was like, oh my god,
it's so ancient.
Old. This is like,
yeah, the Fox logo definitely fucking dates it.
Yes, it was like, I was like, oh my god, what year does this come out?
Yeah,
and I don't know if I just thought it was the 90s or whatever, but it
doesn't feel that old.
It doesn't feel that old. It doesn't feel like a movie that was made in the 70s.
No.
I think is like the thing is, it's like, it feels kind of like it was ahead of its time.
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely.
So the title comes on and it's like a very slow fade in of the letters of Alien, and very artsy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see this like screen come up that tells you like, this is the crew of the Nostromo.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to write out how to pronounce it. Nostromo, the Nostromo. There are 7 aboard. It is a refinery processing of how many zeros? 20 million tons of mineral ore, I think, returning to Earth. So you go inside of the ship and there's like these little woodpecker toys moving. There's like a little box moving. There's a welcome screen. There's like all these things that you're kind of like, there's long cinematic camera shots. And
it's just like empty. It's just, you're just getting the feel of the ship. Yeah,
it's kind of like barren. So you're like, what's going on? Then you go into this room of pods, which open, and everyone in the pod is in a diaper.
Yeah.
And they slowly wake up and they're eating, and you see a young Sigourney Weaver. And the one guy, he's like, let's discuss this bonus situation. Yeah. So there's like beef over the bonuses because the 2 crew members who are just like maintenance guys, they are not going to get as high of a bonus as the rest of the crew, and they don't think that's fair.
Which is fair, I think.
Great, because you're doing the same thing. Yeah. You're on the same thing. I guess
maintenance is very important on a ship.
And I guess they didn't do any of the labor to get the ore. Maybe, but I don't know. I mean, we don't know the backstory,
right? Anyway, it's just, you're just kind of thrown
from
in.
what you're seeing. You're like, yeah, you're right. It should be equal. So they're all like, they all go to their stations and they can't seem to figure out where they are. They like seem to be a little lost. Sigourney Weaver's like, this isn't our system,
which is so scary. Like waking up, it's like lost in space. Hello.
Exactly. They're only halfway home. They find out the Dallas, who is the captain.
Yes. Yeah, Dallas.
So he goes in to talk to the ship. Basically, he talks to the motherboard, which they call Mother, which is super weird. So he goes to talk to Mother. He goes and tells them that they're only halfway home, and there were certain conditions that were met that woke us up early, and that is that there was a transmission discovered, a repeated transmission, and they have to go to it. And there's conflict. Like the one guy from earlier, I believe his name's Parker, and he's like, I don't want to go down there. And they're like, it's in our contract that if we don't stop, there's a penalty that we will forfeit our shares.
Because if there's any sort of like other life, like you have to kind of interact or like whatever. It's like, okay, I guess.
So
they're literally like mining oil or like minerals and shit. Sense. Like, why are you sending these people?
No. So you're seeing like very old school computer graphics on the screens, and they're like trying to land on this planet, and it's a very violent landing. Smoke is going, there's an alarm going off, and they say that they're gonna have to quote dry dock. I don't know what that means, but basically, essentially,
probably because there's no like landing thing.
Oh yeah, there's no landing gear or whatever. So basically, the maintenance guys go down. They're like, this is gonna take at least 17 hours to fix, and then they like do the radio in, and they're like, it's gonna take at least 25 hours to fix. Since they're on the planet, they're like, all right, 3 of us are gonna go, and we're gonna go investigate the distress signal. Everyone else stay in. The outside conditions are really bad. You look, it's like there's like violent winds, there's a lot of debris, like they can't see anything.
And they're like on some sort of moon.
It's some sort of planet. You like, I think in the distance you can see like 2 suns or something. So the people who go out are Lambert, Dallas, and Kane. So those 3 go on board the ship. Still is Brett and Parker, who are the maintenance guys, Ripley, who's Sigourney Weaver, and what's his name, Ash.
Ash. Brett, because he was like watching it with me, he's like, because he thought Parker, the black guy, was Brett. And he's like, oh, I really thought Brett was a white guy name. I'm like, Brett is the white guy. Brett's the white man, not Parker. Bro was like, nice damn try, it. Brett. Yeah, nice try. Sorry, it's a white man name.
Oh, God, Brett. So basically, Ripley goes to check in on the maintenance guys, Brett and Parker, and they just start going on and on and on about the shares. Mm-hmm. And at first, I was like, "Oh, they're being so annoying." And then I realized, like, "Oh, they're trying to get Ripley to leave them alone to do their job."
Right.
Lambert's talking about how she can't see a thing while walking out. Then we see the cat on camera, and I wrote, "How did the cat get taken care of while they were under? Why do they have a cat?"
The question of why they have it is interesting.
Okay.
Because like, I don't know. There's unless for a pet, a companion, because there's not like there's like mice or anything,
right.
you know.
Right.
And I think he goes in the sleep pod too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so during our dinner break, Demi looked up.
Yeah, so Jonesy was assigned to help with the rodent problem.
Apparently.
I don't know what rodents would be on there, but I guess if they're docking on Earth, they would.
Yeah, for me personally, I feel like if you're able to prevent it in spacecrafts, going to the moon, then you'd be able to prevent it in these. But whatever. I mean, what do I know?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, he's also Ripley's pet. So
is it her pet?
Yeah,
like her personal pet.
That's what it said on Wikipedia.
Okay.
So
I would definitely want to have my pet with me. But
he's a source of relaxation and entertainment for the crew.
Okay. Fair enough. That tracks. So basically everything on this planet is like smoky and blue, and they're finding these strange structures that are built there, and they're sending through like very grainy footage back to the main ship. Lambert is like, let's go back, and Kane is like, well, we've come this far, so he wants to go in and investigate.
Yeah, I would have been like, I'm probably tapping out.
Right. Like, there's other life forms here. Like,
yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah, not interested. So they climb a wall, and they see this giant skeleton in a chair. Mm-hmm. And like, it looks like its body exploded from the inside. Mm-hmm. And Lambert wants to leave at this point, and I agree.
Yeah,
now is the time to go.
Yeah, because it's like a giant. It's much bigger than them. It's like a pretty big figure.
Right. And it's really old. Like, the body has clearly been fossilized at this point. I also want to note that the dirty glass of their suits would have driven me absolutely insane. Like, I can't handle it when there's smudges on my glasses. I can't imagine your entire visual space. Yes.
Awful.
I forget who it is who says
Ash
it. Is Ash the one who says that the transmission looks like it could be a warning?
I want to say it was because it's the only ones on the ship are Ash and Ripley.
Ash, Ripley,
3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah. But then isn't there someone else who is on the ship though? I thought there was a dude who's like sitting there.
No, it's just, I mean, Ash is the dude, but one of them does say that it seemed like it was this might have been a little earlier, right? Or no?
No, I think it's here.
No,
I'm
okay.
pretty accurate with my note takiness. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Basically, someone says that it looks like the transmission is a warning.
No, it could have been honestly Ripley that said that.
I don't think so, because Ripley is like, I want to go after them. And then the other guy says there's no point. Mm-hmm. By the time you get out there, it's going to be whatever it is that they're being warned of.
That was definitely Ash.
So. Okay. Yeah. So Kane sees a hole and he's like, oh, let me go down it.
Good idea.
Right. No, thank you. I would have been like, my thought would have been, okay, this gigantic fossil is what put out whatever transmission it is.
Yeah.
Bye. Okay, mystery.
Mission complete. Yeah. Let's get out of here.
Everything looks like almost like bones. Like, it looks like spine. Like the way that like there's all these little bumps and
the
creases
architecture.
In the ground. Yeah. It's very
like organic.
Yeah. So he sees all these leathery objects and they look like eggs, and it's in this enclosure, and then he sees that there's like this mist above it, and Kane just like falls. He like slips and falls into the egg area. Like, it was just the clumsiest fall ever.
It's probably all like slimy too.
Yeah.
It looked like that.
Yeah, it didn't look like cute. He touches an egg like an idiot, and there's something moving inside. All of a sudden the egg opens at the top, and this tentacle like shoots out and grabs his helmet. So then Dallas and Lambert bring Kane back to the ship, and they're talking to Ripley, and they're like, this is the deal, blah, blah, blah. And Ripley's like, I'm not opening the hatch because that's going to break quarantine.
Yeah.
She was like, I'm sorry. And Dallas was like, this is an order. And Ripley was like, when you're off the ship, I'm in charge, and I'm not risking all of our lives.
Yeah. And it's like, I would have left that fucking dude.
Yeah.
I don't know what's on his fucking face.
Sorry.
And at this point, it's like kind of like merged through like the helmet.
Yes, yeah. So then Ash opens it anyway. Like a dork, I wrote.
That dork.
Yeah. So something has attached itself to Kane. And they open up the helmet, and the alien creature is wrapped around his head. So Parker has a great suggestion. He says, let's freeze him because then you go back to Earth and figure it all out.
Right.
Ash is like the main medic guy and is basically ignoring him. And he says that it seems like the alien is feeding him oxygen. So Ash doesn't want to cut the alien off because he's afraid that it will then
kill
him. They decide at that point, Dallas is like, I don't care, get it off of him.
Yeah.
And so they make a little incision, and all of a sudden this like acidic boiling like substance comes out, and it eats through everything. So they're like running, they're like worried about the hull of the ship and that it would go all the way through. And so they're running, trying to get it to stop. I don't know how they anticipate stopping it because it eats through everything. So no matter what fabric you hold up to it, nothing's gonna stop it.
Exactly.
Unless you're gonna just try to get it to
because they weren't really sure what it was exactly, but it's definitely like an acid, pretty much like acid.
And then I noticed that they did the exact same camera shot for two different scenes. They like zoomed in on this one metal thing on like level 1, and then on level 2 it's the exact same. And I was like, I saw that. So then it eventually stops before they even have to worry about stopping it. Ripley ends up going into the med room to talk about Kane and the creature to Ash, and it starts off like subtle, blah blah blah, and then she's like, you disobeyed orders and you risked everyone's life. And she says it in like this really like calm whatever way, but she's basically like, you done goofed,
you fucked up.
And then he's like drinking this nasty thing that looks like milk, and then I was like, wait, there's no way it's milk because they're on a spaceship for multiple probably years or months or whatever. So I was like, no, it can't be milk.
God knows what it fucking drink it is.
And then I wrote, Ash talks like C-3PO a little.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Well.
And then the creature went off Kane's face, and they don't know where it is, and they're looking for it.
Dude.
And they leave the door open?
I was like, what is going through everyone's fucking heads? Like, why are they doing that?
No part of me can understand that decision.
If the alien, if we lost it, I'm like, I'm locking myself in a room.
Yes.
I'm out.
Correct.
That thing was on his face.
And they don't have masks on. They don't have any protection. No. They're just, la, la, la.
Yeah.
Are you joking?
And I'm like, y'all were not prepared to find other life out there. No. Like, obviously not.
No. Clearly. Ash finally closes the door at one point, and I was like, wow, good idea.
Good job.
Yeah. So it ends up falling onto Ripley, and she's like freaking out, kicking it, and it's dead.
Yeah.
It like it's having some reflex movements, but that's just, death reflexes.
Yeah.
So Ash wants to take it back to Earth, so he like boxes it up or whatever.
No.
Ripley and Dallas are talking later, and Ripley's like, I do not trust him. And she's like, how do you know him? Whatever. And Dallas is like, well, I worked with this other guy for like 5 years, and 2 days before I was supposed to board this, they assigned Ash to it. Parker again mentions freezing Kane.
I mean,
which I honestly feel like is the best option.
Yeah,
like,
it was a good
stop everything. Then go back to where you can get to some professional medical.
Yeah, because you don't know what that thing did to him.
Exactly. And then, you're all going to have to quarantine, but at least, like, he's going to get the proper care.
Exactly.
They're 10 months from Earth, by the way. That means that if this is halfway through their journey, right, that means the whole journey is about 20 months. And that means in total, it's like 40 months because they had to travel there to begin with. And that's almost 4 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Also, if it was my pet cat, just like thinking this through, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't being frozen, because it can be, because it's patrolling for rodents. Because if you just woke it up randomly, right? I could not handle waking up in my me being the same age and my pet being 4 years older.
I know. My baby.
That's 4 years you I would rather be awake the whole time on the ship.
I don't know for sure, only because...
No, I know. I think maybe it becomes like her emotional pet like towards the end. Like, I don't think necessarily
because she does put it in like a pod.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, that's why I'm like, I feel like that's what they're doing. But also, like, yeah, if he's looking for rodents, like, he needs to be out and about. Yeah. So, I don't know.
Right. Okay. So Kane is awake. And they're all talking. They're like, let's eat a meal before heading to the freezers. Like, Kane's starving. Dude. He's so hungry. They're like, okay, it's our last
and
supper.
They're all just like hanging out with this dude.
It's just like vibing. I'm like, guys, no. Literally nothing has changed. You did not do any treatment to him. You did not do any analytics on him.
No, nothing.
It's ridiculous. So they're eating and Kane starts gagging. Yeah. And then he like, this is my most memorable scene.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And what I love about this scene is like while they're eating, you can hear like a heartbeat.
Can you?
You can hear it like subtle in the background. And I think like I notice it more because I've watched it so much. Yeah. And I always get like nervous because I know it's coming.
Oh my god.
And you can hear the heartbeat. And I'm like, that's such a cool like addition to it. It's just like anxious, like what's going to happen.
Oh my god. Because you definitely know like as he's eating, something's bothering him. Like, he thinks he's just really hungry.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's nope. Because his stomach explodes. And the alien comes out of him. It like explodes twice. Like there's an initial burst and then a secondary
breaking
burst.
through the rib. Ugh.
Oh god, horrible. So the alien comes out of him and Parker's ready to like grab it and Ash is like, don't touch it.
Which is, dude, Brett was like, I would have grabbed it. And I'm like, you would just grab this foreign creature that popped out of the tree?
I personally feel, we already had this argument once because it stopped recording. But I said that I would have either killed it or tried to like trap it in some way.
I think killing it is fair. I mean, obviously it's dangerous.
Right.
It just ripped out of that dude's chest.
Right.
So
Demi was like, don't touch it physically.
Right.
Which I understand. I wouldn't want to put my hands on it.
And he's like slimy.
Yeah. Icky,
you know?
Icky.
And then you're talking about the way it was like pulled across.
Yeah, it was pulled like someone had stuck a string to it and just like dragged it.
There was a movie that did a parody of that. Was it a Scary Movie?
I don't know. I haven't seen that.
And it like comes out and it put like a top hat on.
Oh yes. No, I'm familiar with that. Yeah. I know that scene at the very least.
So I just like laugh every time I see that because I just think of the stupid goofy. Him putting the top hat. Yes.
So they end up shooting Kane into space.
It's like just they're like, well, they wrapped him up nicely. Yeah. It was like a funeral.
It was. I thought it was gonna be like an incineration thing, but it was just goodbye. Okay.
It's like your shit on an airplane.
Right. Seriously, it is. And then like what? You don't know if his body's infected or whatever, and you're just leaving that behind. Then they all are having like this meeting. They have to find this creature that's loose on their ship.
Yep.
And Ash is like, I designed a tracking device. And Ripley's like quizzing him on it. He's like, it tracks air density changes. Yeah. Whatever. Okay. So they split up into two different search groups. Mm-hmm. It's Ripley, Brett, and Parker. Mm-hmm. And then it's Ash, Lambert, and Dallas. Mm-hmm. The lights are all off in the area that like Ripley's group is. And so Parker's trying to fix it. And like suddenly they come back on. At one point, Ripley says that she's like within 5 meters of it. And I don't know how she specifically knows that because it's not like there's a reading on the tracking. Yeah, because the thing starts going off when she's really close. Yeah. Maybe it was just making some beeping noises.
Because it was like a false alarm. Yeah. It was
so they find they find the lockers in and it looks like there's blood up against it and everything, but it ends up just being the cat and the poor cat goes running off.
I know.
And they're like, you should have grabbed it.
Yeah.
And Brett's like, why? Like, why? What does it matter? And Ripley and Parker were like, well, it'll set off the tracking device again. Mm-hmm. So Brett goes in search of it, which feels like a bad idea to separate. Never separate. And this is when we learn the cat's name is Jones or Jonesy. He calls him Jonesy, Jonesy, Jonesy. A couple times Ripley calls him Jones. So I kind of use it interchangeably throughout. So he finds the cat, but it gets away. Yeah. And he also finds the peeled skin of the alien. So you know it's grown. Like a snake molting its first layer. This thing is bigger.
At that point, I would have been like, I'm gone. Right, sorry, Jonesy.
Right. Goodbye.
R.I.P.
I need a friend. Then Brett's walking and there's rain inside the ship, which I don't...
It's like the water. Well, yeah, I don't know where the water is exactly leaking from, but it's supposed to be like a trick where you think like the saliva from the alien is dripping on him, but it is like rain.
Oh, interesting.
Not like rain, it's just water. Oh, God.
Right, water
dripping from God knows where, because they're like down in the maintenance like area.
So Brett lets that water run all over him, and he ends up finding Jonesy, but the alien shows up behind him, and Jonesy's scared and hissing.
Yeah.
The alien grabs him, and then you get a zoom in on the cat's face.
He's like watching this man get murdered.
He's seen some shit. So they realize that it's using the air ducts to move around, and this is when Ash says, Kane's son.
Kane's son.
How dare you give it this like cutesy pet name?
Stop being weird for 1 second.
Right, seriously. So Dallas asks Mother about the procedure for aliens, and it's basically like, does not compute. It can't figure it out. And he ends up just typing, what are my chances? Which is so sad.
None, bitch.
Yeah. And so he ends up going into the airlock with a flamethrower, which looks claustrophobic and very challenging. So he's like flamethrowing down where he heads down, and meanwhile Lambert is like tracking the alien on some system that they have.
He pretty much said like, I will go into the vent and you two, like, the groups are doing different things to try to get him in one space, so then he takes the duty as the big man to actually go down into there and look for him.
They can't see, it's not coming up on, it's all of a sudden not reading on the radar anymore. He's seeing some goo like on the ground, and she's like, are you sure it's not there? Like, I'm pretty sure it's there. Right. And all of a sudden it's moving towards Dallas on the radar screen.
Really quickly.
You see that it's really coming at him, and so she's like, get out of there, get out of there, get out of there. And he leaves behind the flamethrower, which felt like a bad choice. Like, at this point you know that he's gonna get to you, so stand your ground and flamethrower him.
I don't know. I mean, like, he was panicking.
Right.
And then Lambert was like, he's coming right at you.
Lambert's so
She's
annoying.
freaking out. And it's like, bitch, you're the one guiding him. Yes. Like, you're doing a really shitty job of telling where to go.
Right.
But.
Exactly. So the alien jumps and screams, and that got me. That was a jump scare. I was like,
that's a spooky one.
They found the flamethrower. They did not find any blood or Dallas. Ripley is going off. She's having her little fun yelling moment. And she goes to Mother and sees there's a command. She's trying to find out information, and it's like science officer eyes only. And she overrides it. And then she ends up finding out that there is an order. Basically, what she finds out is that there was an order for a planned reroute. It said, like, the crew is expendable. Bring the specimen back. Yeah. So then you see Ash is, like, leaking white. And this is when I remembered he's a robot.
Yeah, well, it's because he comes in and she, like, fights him and pretty much throws him against the wall, and he starts leaking this disgusting white fluid.
Yeah. And then that's when I remember that he's a robot. And I was like, oh my God, how did I forget that?
I know. There's always an android.
Yeah. So he tries to kill her with a newspaper that's rolled up, shoving it down her mouth.
Such a weird way to try and murder someone.
Weird way to try to kill her. So Parker comes in. He hits Ash with a metal thing. Yeah. And Ash goes like haywire, and Parker destroys him.
Yeah. His head just completely fucking flops off.
So the flailing body ends up attacking Parker, and Lambert kills it. Ripley thinks they sent the robot Ash to collect the alien for their weapons division. This is like her theory right now. And so they attempt to turn it back on to learn how to kill it, and Ash doesn't know how to kill it, but he calls it the perfect organism. Yeah. Yeah, and he's like, so at this point he's just like this head, and they managed to like kind of bring him back for a second, and it's just like so much white, and it's like it's like coming out of his mouth, and girl, I hate it. I hate it. It's like, so it's like blood, I guess, technically. I don't know. It's fucking gross. Super gross. So Ripley at this point wants to get on the shuttle and blow up the ship. And I wrote, what about the cat? Because she seems to have forgotten about him. Like, come on. You're just going to explode this poor cat? Yeah, where's the cat? Where is the cat? So Lambert and Parker are going to get coolant, and Ripley is going to repair the shuttle. Ripley suddenly remembers that Jonesy exists after hearing a recording of the meow, and she goes after him. The cat ends up jumping out and scaring her. No. And she eventually gets Jonesy, puts him in the crate. So the alien shows up, and Lambert is like, you know, fight, flight, or freeze. She froze. Could not move. Parker's screaming at her. She will not move her body. I don't really know what they were doing at this point. Like, I don't know the purpose. They were opening all the coolant canisters and throwing them. I'm assuming they wanted to help detonate the ship, but the ship was going to detonate on its own. I don't know if like they were just trying to like help with the explosion to make sure it's a bigger explosion, right? But yeah, I never really understood fully like why, but
For me, I was like, I guess they were just like, fuck it, make it a bigger explosion.
Right.
But
so Parker tries to be a hero and save her, but he gets killed and Lambert dies as well.
Yep.
Ripley decides that she has to investigate to make sure they're dead, which doesn't make sense.
Couldn't be me. I got the cat. I'm out.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
She sees their dead bodies, and then she goes and sets things in motions for everything to detonate. She pulls the emergency levers. She sets it off. Mother is saying that the detonation is going to take place in 10 minutes, and you've got 5 minutes to change your mind.
Yeah.
So she runs to the shuttle. This poor cat, she's really throwing this carrier around. When it comes to deleting, that's why I said it should be deleted. That needs to be reworked. That poor cat is being abused in this carrier.
I know. It's like, it's so funny, but also like, it's such a terror, because that alien's just fucking terrifying. Like, it's such a terrifying moment, and you don't know where it's coming. It's fucking quiet. So you're just fucking running. Yeah. You're not thinking that much, but poor Jonesy. Dude. He's a fluffy boy. He probably could take it. Hopefully. Yeah, he's fine.
So the alien ends up showing up between her and the shuttle. She drops the cat and runs.
I was like, no!
I know! And he's like staring at the cat.
Yeah.
Like, this poor cat. So she's trying to cancel detonation, and she's like 2 seconds too late.
Yeah.
She literally gets everything done except for lifting the levers up in time. Yeah. It's too late. So she's got it. She's just got to go. Yeah. So she's running back to the shuttle, but she's like going really slow about it and like looking both ways for the alien. And I'm like, girl, you are going to die one way or another. Either you're going to die by detonation or by the alien. Get going. The cat's okay. So she picks up the carrier. She jumps up onto the shuttle, releases it. It literally gets out just in time. Yeah. I'm like sweating. Dude, my heart's beating fast. Then there's like 3 really big explosions. 1, 2, 3. Like I don't know what was
huge.
This.
It was gigantic. A massive, like a planet explosion.
Yes. Yeah, it's probably all the coolant that they released.
Honestly, it fucking worked. It's like the fucking Death Star shot it. Right. It's crazy.
So she says, "I got you, you son of a bitch," and I wrote, "Are you sure?"
Question mark?
Question mark. So she let Jonesy out and cuddles him, and I'm like, poor Jones.
I know. He's been through it.
Really, it's just like the most traumatizing experience ever. She puts him in the little freezer thing, and she changes, and of course we see her tighty whities. Just like they go this whole time without sexualizing her, and now they have to do it, and they like it's like rolled down, and like her butt crack is showing, and nobody in the history of the world is just going about their business and letting their crack.
To be fair, she didn't have much to hold it up.
No,
she's a bitty lady.
Itty-bitty,
so, but yeah, I was like, fix your crack.
Yes.
It was to distract from what was behind.
Of course. So she has a white see-through tank top on too. And then you realize the alien is on board, and
he's just like laying in between the tubes. Oh my God. Like if you like don't see him, like
So she ends up running into this corner where there's like all these axes and stuff, and she ends up very quietly stepping into a spacesuit, grabs a weapon, and she's singing like "You Are My Lucky Star" or something. She ends up releasing these gases, which like startle him out of his spot, and then she ends up shooting him out of the airlock. He bounces into the engine, so she fires the engine, and then she ends up like harpooning his face.
Yeah, she harpoons at him, and it goes out, and then the door closes. With the rope is still there, so it's still like dangling.
Oh yes, and that's when the engine goes.
Yes.
It's gone then. And then she realizes she's like, her voice is talking over, and she's basically saying she's going to reach the frontier in 6 weeks, and hopefully the network will pick her up.
Yep.
And then she goes with the cat into the freezer.
Yep. That's Alien 1.
Alien 1. Main character, smash or pass. I wrote smash.
Yeah, Ripley's a babe.
Yeah, villain, obviously pass.
Yeah.
That's literally... I said my survival rating 2.5.
Yeah, I would be pretty low too. Yeah. There's no way I'm.
Yeah, I don't think I'm a guaranteed death, but I don't know.
To be fair, I probably would have just killed Kane secretly, but then they probably would have killed me. So I don't think I would have survived.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
A couple of fun facts. Apparently, they use shredded condoms to create the alien's jaw tendons.
Shut up. Oh my God.
I couldn't believe it.
That's really cool.
Do you know what the original ending was supposed to be?
I don't know.
Ripley was supposed to die and the alien was going to live.
Oh.
And basically mimic her voice movements and head towards the...
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the showrunners were like, we are going to cancel this whole operation if that's how you end it.
That's crazy to like lose, because she was such a big character, and yeah, you would have lost out on some really good flicks after that. That's wild.
And then
that would have been so upsetting. Oh, I would have been so mad.
Yeah, that would have been. I mean, that would have been horrible to have it end that way.
Mm-hmm.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And then I wrote that I somehow forgot the robot subplot, which is I really
that's
can't
like
believe
crazy.
I can't believe that. I gave it 4.75.
Yeah,
it's a good movie.
Yeah,
it's a good movie.
It's a good movie.
Point blank period.
And I love that the last 3 survivors were 2 women and a man of color. I was like, this is great. This is progressive.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Love to see
That's great. Except Lambert was definitely annoying.
She was the worst. She was the
annoying.
worst.
And I get it though. Like I would probably have been Lambert in some way, in some capacity.
She was like too emotional, you know. And like I don't know. It's true. Like you're not prepared for that. Those people are not prepared for that situation. So I don't know. I feel like I would have had some sort of fight or just run away situation because like I feel like sometimes. You know, I don't really freeze that much when things are going on. My body just moves on its own. So I probably wouldn't have survived, but I would have done something.
Gone out fighting.
Poor Parker risked his life to help her. And, like
he should have just run.
He should have ran. Yeah, fuck her. But he was a good man.
He's too nice.
Too nice. That's what happens to nice people.
Yep,
you die.
Exactly.
Okay. So anyway, that was Alien. Now onto Pride and Prejudice.
Yes, this is where it's really gonna get. We actually, I don't think we went too crazy long.
No.
Alien.
And like I said, like Alien's not. There's not too much.
It's a pretty basic storyline.
Yeah. I think the other ones are way more in depth.
Right. If you especially talking about the new ones where they really build up the backstory and everything.
Oh my god. Yes. So we're not doing that. But anyway, well maybe one day.
Yeah.
So anyway, Pride and Prejudice. Yes. This is the 2005 version. So it's a Keira Knightley. The genre is historical, Regency, romance. Director is Joe Wright, who also did Atonement.
Okay,
that movie.
I didn't watch that.
Shut up. How did you not watch Atonement?
What is it? Is it scary?
It's with Keira Knightley. No way. I can't believe you haven't seen that movie.
What's it about? Okay, well,
there's no way you haven't seen it. Have you never seen? Oh my god, Megan! It's every episode now. You're like, I haven't seen it. Like what? Okay, well, it's a good one, so you should watch it. But it is sad.
Okay, well, I'll hold off on that. Till
in a better
in a good headspace.
Okay, anyway, so my snapshot is Lizzie and her family's life turns upside down when they meet wealthy Mr. Bingley and his more wealthy friend, Mr. Darcy. Lizzie and Darcy do not hit it off at first, but after various encounters, they learn to overcome their pride and prejudice of each other.
Amazing. So good.
So if anyone does not know, this is based on the best book ever written.
Correct.
By Jane Austen.
Travis was trying to ask me, like, what is it about Pride and Prejudice that makes it so good? And I was just like, I don't know how to explain to you that it's literally, it was written by a woman. It's enemies to lovers. It's just like, it's subtle.
Yeah, I think what's great, so obviously Elizabeth is a great main character. She's a great main character, and Mr. Darcy is a great romance option. Yes. And it is very much romance, but there's so much drama. There's so much drama. There's humor. Yeah. It has like everything. Yeah. And so I just feel like it's very good. And I feel like anyone who's like, oh, I don't really like romance, like just at least start it, you know, like, because then once the drama hits, you can't stop. You're like, oh shit, like, all right, I gotta keep going. Yeah. Anyone who doesn't like it is fake.
Agreed.
Fake bitch. Anyway, so the start. It opens up and we see Lizzie. She's like reading a book, which is actually the first version of Pride and Prejudice. Yes. Fun fact.
First impressions, I think.
Yeah, first impressions. Yeah. And you know, you kind of get an idea of the Bennet household, and there's 5 sisters. So Jane is the oldest, Lizzie is the second oldest, and then you have Lydia, Kitty, Mary.
I think it's Mary, Lydia, Kitty.
Okay. Mary's not. They actually almost did not include Mary in this movie, which is crazy.
I can't believe it. How can you get rid of a whole sister?
No, yeah, and like, yeah, she doesn't have too many lines, but like, she's pretty iconic.
Yes,
she's iconic. So that's really funny that they almost didn't include her. So it's them, and then their mother and father. The mother is very like neurotic, just very loud and very annoying,
super annoying character.
Yeah, and she gets more and more annoying as it goes on.
Yeah, but
basically she's talking to the father, Mr. Bennet, and she's saying that a Mr. Bingley has arrived and he makes £5,000 a year. And I didn't look up how much that is.
So basically I briefly looked up what Darcy makes.
Yeah, because he's 10,000.
10,000. The range is wild. They said it could be anywhere from like 1 million to 16 million a year.
Goodness.
Which means that Bingley would be anywhere from 500,000 to 8 million a year. So they make a lot of freaking money just like their allowance or whatever it is.
Right. And this takes place 18.
So this is a point of controversy because the book itself was written in the late 1700s, 1797, I believe. Yeah. And so because of the clothing that gets worn,
I was
people get really upset because she originally wrote it in that era. Exactly. However, it didn't get published until the Regency era, which is when you see the Empire waist and everything.
Right.
So a lot of people feel like you have to stay true to that Regency tone. Yeah. However, I don't know that she even like describes.
No, I mean, because that was the one thing. So it was very well received, except a lot of historians. There was like a lot of Jane Austen diehard fans, and historians were like, it's not super accurate. And to be fair, like there are differences in this, and we'll get into it. Yeah. They're not bad differences; they just are differences. But yeah, the clothing, the director did not like the style, so he was like, we'll change it. And he was like, well, it was published at this time, so it's fine. And you know, like I think it looked fine. I definitely noticed the style was different. Yes. But like it wasn't that different where I was like, hey, like they weren't wearing jeans or anything.
No,
it was still
exactly
like not empire gowns, but similar.
They were. It was the precursor. Like it was a little bit higher waisted than what
it was more. I'll say flattering. I mean, empire dress would look awful on me,
dude.
On most people.
Yes, I genuinely like. I really don't like the empire waist. It's very few people who can make it work.
If you don't have hips,
it's.
I would have looked awful.
Yeah, I do not like them at all. No, I absolutely not. I do not like empire waist dresses at all. So because of my own aesthetic reasons, I like the costumes.
No, the costumes I thought were good. So, you know, but that was just something that you would notice. And if you're like,
and diehards, like, because I was even reading this article about someone going on and on about the type of corsetry used. And I was like, okay, well, that's a little bit, like, it is a movie, guys.
Yeah, it's a movie. Like, relax. It's not that big of a fucking deal. Like, it's romance fiction. Like, okay.
Right.
Whatever. So anyway, they're talking about that. And the reason why this is like such a big thing is because if you don't know, at that time, women had nothing. So at this point, the household is it's 5 girls. Yeah. And they're going to be left with like nothing because there's no male. Well, there is kind of a male heir. We'll get to him. But
no immediate in the immediate family.
Immediate. And so, you know, the parents are both worried, especially Mrs. Bennet. She's like, we need to marry them off rich so they're going to be set. Yeah. And that's what she cares about. So that's why she brings up Mr. Bingley and being all excited. And the girls are like listening in and eavesdropping. And then Mr. Bennet was like, oh, like, wish you would have said something. I already met him. Yeah. And they were like, oh my God, you met him. Yeah. And they're like, you know, is he going to be at the ball tomorrow? And he is. So all the girls are super excited because they're all like just lining up. They're like, one of us got to marry him. The next day, they're at the ball. And you notice all the sisters are very much interested in marrying, except Lizzie. She is very much interested in love, and so she's just like, I'm not interested to marry, which is a nice, you know, it's what you'd want, but it's not realistic at that time. It's like you gotta kind of also look for yourself. But that's how Lizzie's point of view, and so she's a little different than her sisters. The grand entrance happens, and everyone kind of stops. So everyone's like dancing, and they stop and they look, and you see the big trio. So it's Caroline Bingley, Mr. Bingley, their brother and sister, and then Mr. Darcy in the middle. And they're both just all kind of like looking around. They're all like very attractive people. And they just kind of like stroll in. And Mr. Bingley is just like a golden retriever. Like he is just a puppy dog. He's really so freaking cute. I love him. I love him. Like you look at him and you're like, I love this man.
Yes.
He's adorable.
How could you not?
Right. And then, but Mr. Darcy and Caroline are very straight faced. They are like, we're not, you know, part of this. Like we're better. Like have this like air about them that they're better. So they're walking through, they get to the end, and then everyone continues their dance. So Mrs. Bennet immediately brings the girls.
Like, let's go.
Yeah,
come on.
It's go time. She's like, these are my daughters. And she like introduces all of them. And Mr. Bingley's so sweet. He's like, oh, hello. Like, it's nice to meet you. And I love him. And she's just offering her daughters up like fresh meat.
Basically, yes.
And so Mr. Darcy immediately is like,
He's like, I don't like this.
Right, which is fair.
Right, because the mother is being, you know, looking for money at this point, and it's not like she's, you know, she's doing what all marriage-minded mamas did back then.
Yeah, but... it's, she does want good things for her daughter, but she's also being, very like, you need to marry rich. Like, we need to make this work. And it's like, okay, girl, like, step off a little bit.
They definitely don't have as much money as their peers. I think like they're supposed to be a little bit more hard on their luck. However, they're not poor. The Bennetts, and that's one of the big criticisms of the movie, is that the Bennetts are not poor. They're middle class. Yeah. They are not upper class like Darcy and all of them.
It's just more difficult because they're all girls.
Yes.
And that's why it's like kind of a bigger deal.
Yeah, because they don't have any fallback.
Exactly.
They could end up on the streets. They could end up with nothing. Yeah. And so I can understand how the mom would be a little bit of a wreck about that.
Yeah. And I think I saw something where it's like their like dowry or something. It was like they would receive $5,000 a year each if they did not like marry. And I'm like, what? Yeah, so it was like nothing. They really like would have had nothing because they had to split all the money between the girls.
Oh shit.
So yeah, it was very
$5,000 in today's dollars.
Yes, in today's dollars. US dollars.
Yeah, because I was like, back then, like, oh, they don't have to get married.
Yes, yeah. Jane is, okay, I didn't bring up Jane. Jane is the most beautiful sister.
Yes.
She's,
and that's not like, that's not Demi just like saying that. That
no.
is just the statement.
In the story,
throughout the storyline. Yeah.
She's the prettiest one. She's like the blonde with the cute curls, and she is very pretty. Like, I think the casting of Keira Knightley was nicely done because even the director was like, I don't know if I want to cast her because she's very beautiful. Yeah. But somehow she makes it work in this movie.
She has this vibe about her where she's just like, it's down to earth.
Yeah. She's very pretty, obviously, but like, it works next to the actress playing Jane because like if you feel like Jane is the prettier one, just looking at them. Mr. Bingley and Jane just hit it off. Like he is like enamored with her. They dance and everyone's like, oh my god, like look at this, and like it's a big deal to dance with someone. Lizzie's standing next to Mr. Darcy. She's like, do you dance? And he's like, not if I can help it. And she's like, okay. Like he's just like shutting her down.
Yes.
And so she's like, okay. She like just walks off, and I'm like, she's just trying to be nice.
Yes.
But Mr. Darcy being
and then
difficult.
He's definitely like, I think as you learn more about his character, you kind of realize that he's just really awkward.
He is very awkward. Yes.
And that's him. He's not intentionally being unkind in that moment. He's just like, he just doesn't
because he's like, he's not a full-on dick, but he is socially awkward and he has this society, he does see himself as like higher society, and he is. So I think part of that kind of blends in together, and he just like doesn't kind of want to be there because he's like, I don't want to be here. This is not, I don't know anyone here. And then Lizzie's talking to him, and he's just like, oh, okay. Right. So it doesn't go off great. They're all dancing, whatever, and Lizzie ends up talking to Caroline, and Caroline is like a family friend. Yeah. And so Lizzie, they overhear Mr. Darcy and Mr. Bingley talking, and Mr. Bingley's like talking about like Jane, and Mr. Darcy's like, oh yeah, you're dancing with the most handsome girl in here. And he's like, well, her sister is very agreeable. And Mr. Darcy says, quote, she's perfectly tolerable, but not handsome enough to tempt me. And that would have killed me.
Dude, Travis didn't stay and watch the whole thing, but he looked at me, he goes, what a dick. I was like, I know.
It was really mean to say. And Lizzie like laughs it off because she's like, I didn't like, I wouldn't even dance with him.
Meanwhile, me, I would be like, I'm going home.
I would have passed out. No.
First of all, because I immediately would have been in love with him.
I mean,
like I know who I am as a person. Like I know who my Stardew Valley #1 choice was. I would have been in love with him first sight.
I definitely probably would have been more Mr. Bingley because he was more approachable.
You go for
Mr. Darcy is, I mean, he's very tall and very handsome, but I didn't like his hair.
No, that's fair.
And I think that would have been like,
that's
because he's got a bit of emo look.
Bingley has amazing hair. I love Bingley, and like, I feel like you would have a great life with Bingley. Yeah. And I want to be the type of person who would choose Bingley, but I'm just not. Like, I go for the ones who are brooding.
Yeah. It just like, if I was Lizzie and I asked him about dancing and he just shut me down like that, and then I hear him say that, I probably been like, well, that fuck this
after
dude.
That I definitely would have been like, not only would I have gone home and sobbed into my pillow for a week,
it's like, oh cool, rich handsome man said I was
it would have been my ugly life goal to prim myself up and strut my stuff in front of him and be like, who's not pretty now,
right? Yeah. So Lizzie doesn't fucking care.
No,
she doesn't care.
She's better than me.
So yeah, she's better than all of us. after more dancing, Bingley's dancing with Caroline because he's just very nice. He's dancing with everyone, and he's like, oh, like, you're a great dancer, and everyone's laughing and having fun. And then the mom,
she just interferes too much.
Yeah, and I feel like she was a little drunk, right?
Oh,
okay,
for sure.
Yeah, because she was just saying shit. So so it's her, Lizzie, Mr. Darcy, and Mr. Bingley. They're all kind of like in a circle, and she's like, oh, like, Caroline's so nice. I just like wish she was like prettier. Too bad she's not prettier. And like Lizzie's like, Mom, and you can see Mr. Bingley's face, like,
yeah, his face is almost like he almost wants to laugh. He's like, what's happening?
It was like shocking,
right?
And she's like, oh, you know, like my Jane, my prize jewel, and like just pretty much like comparing Jane, like saying Jane's the prettiest one, and just comparing people's like looks.
Yeah.
And Lizzie's just trying to be like, Ma, like, what do you?
Knock it off.
Yeah. And like, you know, obviously it's not a good look to these people, especially Mr. Darcy, who's already judging everyone hard. So he's like, she's shit, and I don't blame him for thinking that. And then they're like talking, and you're gonna have to fill in this for me, but it pretty much she brings up something about like poetry for affection. And
so basically they're talking about like, yes, someone brings up poetry, and she makes a comment that like poetry is all well and good if there's actual like, if it's long lasting love, but when it's just like fly away comment, it just becomes silly and like trivial.
And Mr. Darcy's like, well, what do you consider like for affection? She's like, dancing
even if your partner is
barely tolerable.
Amazing. That was so, and then she walks away,
she like skips away,
and I was like,
yeah, and that's why Lizzie's the best.
Yes.
And because she don't give a shit. And that's what I love about this version Kiera gives, because she definitely has a more like she just says what she wants. You know, she's definitely more not outspoken, but like just says what she wants, compared to like traditional Lizzie that is also a little quick-witted and like similar, but
a little bit more tame.
She's more tame, and she's more careful about how she says shit.
And it's probably that makes sense for like the era, like you wouldn't, but as a modern woman, I do love like okay, I get if it's not perfectly true to it or whatever, but you know, bring it into the new world.
Yeah, this is very much a romanticized Pride and Prejudice.
It very much so is. And the director had never read Pride and Prejudice or watched the BBC series or anything, and he never did watch the BBC series. He didn't want it to before filming, because he didn't want to have it reflect.
That's
like
fair.
Change his image, vision for it, right? But I do find it weird that he hadn't read the book. Yeah. And some of the things, like I read a transcript of the director's cut. Yeah. And some of the things he says, I'm like, I don't love that.
It is kind of crazy that a man directed this too. I would have been really like, I really thought a woman would have directed a Jane Austen movie. But...
Exactly. Well, it was 2005. So yeah. But I do feel like he does a good job of it. Yeah. And I think it definitely has its downfalls, but
it's just a different take. And like for me, I think it's great. And a comment I read, and I think it's very accurate, it says watching this version feels like the feeling you get watching this version feels like reading the book for the first time. Like it's like that feeling of you're like, oh, like this is great,
the
like
excitement, and all of that.
So it's like that feeling, and I think that's exactly what this movie gives. You know, obviously the BBC one has my heart, but it is very much like accurate to the book.
It's the thing that's different, like the biggest thing that's different for me between the two is the BBC is a 6 episode
it's longer
series.
It's long as shit.
It's longer, so you're able
it covers
to
everything,
get everything in. The nice thing about this one is yes, it's dramatized and things are cut out and things are done differently, but you can watch the whole thing in 2 hours. Yeah. So when you don't feel well,
all the important bits are in there. You know, like it
is the abridged version.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, back to the book.
Yes.
So. She leaves Darcy, and Darcy's definitely like, oh shit, oops. And then that night, Jane and Lizzie are talking together, and they're talking about Bingley, and Jane's like so like smitten by him, and Lizzie's like, he's definitely into you, he definitely likes you. And you talk about Darcy, she's like, ugh. Which is fair. Like I don't like that dude sucks. Seriously. And she's like, I'm probably gonna die an old maid because I refuse to marry without love, which is such a sweet romantic view, but it's not realistic, Lizzie. Next day during breakfast, Jane receives a letter, and it's from Mr. Bingley, or it's from Caroline and his sister, and she invited her to like dine with her. And so Jane's asking like, Mom, they can borrow a carriage.
Yeah, but she said Caroline said my brother's gonna be out of town.
Yes.
So they all know that she's not gonna see the brother. She's just gonna go over there.
Yeah, you're right, which is important. Because then the mom was like, no, you can walk.
And then you hear thunder.
Yeah, and everyone's like, what the fuck? So she's poor thing had to walk. And
no, she didn't walk. She took a horse.
She took a horse. You're right. She took a horse. Yes.
It wasn't in the carriage.
You're right. Lizzie is like, I need to go see her, or because they get a letter saying that she was sick.
Yes. So she shows up. She immediately starts sneezing.
Yeah.
And they find out she's sick.
Which is like awful, but it was all part of the mother's plan.
The mom is talking about how that was all part of her plan, and the dad's like, well, if she dies, at least we know it's in the pursuit of something good.
Yes. Yeah, because basically the mom wanted her to stay a few extra days so that she could see Mr. Bingley. So Lizzie's like, well, I'm going to go over to see her. And so she goes and she like walks the whole way. And she ends up at the place and Caroline and Darcy are sitting there. And she like walks in and Darcy like immediately like stands up. And I think at this point he starts to be like, oh, like, hey. Yeah. She's like, she walks in, her hair's all like loose. Yes. She's like partially like sweaty and like looking very cute. And she's like, oh, like I'm here to see my sister. And Darcy's like, she's upstairs.
He is
He's just like staring into her soul.
He really is.
Dude.
He plays that so well. The actor does such a good job.
Yeah, he really did a really good job with him. And I, as Lizzie, probably was like, this dude's crazy.
Right, totally.
He's handsome, but he's a little cray-cray.
He's got the eyes.
Yeah, he's got the crazy eyes. So she goes up to see Jane. She's upstairs, and the poor thing is like all sick in bed. And Lizzie's like comforting her. Mr. Bingley comes by. He's like, oh, I'm like so happy. Like she's like here, not that she's sick, but like, and he's just all like flustered. And I'm like, he's so cute. I love him. Sweet. So sweet. It cuts to. It's not that important, but like the soldiers like are like staying in the town. And like Kitty and Lydia especially are like so excited about this thing. I'm like, why would you want to marry a soldier?
Right. I think that there's some prestige that comes with an officer.
Yeah, that's fair.
Especially in England, where they're all about the British Empire. You know what I mean? I feel like there is something there.
Yeah. So it's just like a quick scene about that because that's gonna come into play later. And then we do cut back and Lizzie is sitting in like this room and Caroline's in there. Mr. Darcy's writing a letter. Mr. Bingley's sitting in there and Mr. Darcy's writing to his sister and they kind of like talk about her and they're like, oh, she like plays piano very well and she does this and this and this and I make sure to do this.
She's so accomplished.
She's so and Mr. Bingley's like, I think it's great that women know like piano and so many things and embroidery and I'm like, you're cute, man.
Oh my god, he really is. Like, he's like, well, women are amazing.
I love women. Like Caroline's kind of like teasing him and she's like, oh, like let's take a walk around the room and she like takes Lizzie's arm around her arm
and has her walk about
and they start like walking and they're kind of like teasing Darcy and Lizzie's like kind of like, you know, is being too proud a good thing or is it like a fault? Because we're trying to find fault in you to kind of like make fun about. Yeah. And she's just teasing him. But Darcy's very serious. And he's like, I find it hard to forgive others for their wicked behavior. And once my opinion...
good opinion, once lost, is lost forever.
Yeah. And he's just very dead serious about it. And Lizzie's like, okay, like, you know, I can't laugh at you for that. And she's just being like sincere. And I'm like, Darth, like, he's so awkward. Yes. He really is so awkward.
Boy.
Later on, the mom and the three sisters stop by, and it's just like a whole fucking party. Yeah. And Lizzie's just already embarrassed, which I would be too.
Mrs. Bennet and Miss Bennet.
Yeah, Miss Bennet. That's right. Mrs. Bennet, Miss Bennet, Miss Bennet, and Miss Bennet. So Lydia's like, "Oh, Mr. Bingley, like you should host a ball. Like it's a great way to meet people." And he was like, you know, once Jane is back on her feet, like you pick the day. And he's just very nice to the family, even though they're like psychotic. Yeah. And so they're all excited. They're like, oh my God, like it'd be so fun. And Mary's like, I don't think balls are that great to have conversations. It's like, all right, Mary.
Right, okay, Mary, that's not the point.
They all go to leave and they're like going onto the carriage. Jane is much better. And Lizzie's going on and Darcy like helps her and she looks like shocked. She's like, why like helping me. He helps her into the carriage and he walks away like quickly and he like flexes his hand.
Oh my god, dude!
I'm like, this man.
I told Travis, I was like, that is the most erotic scene in all of cinematic history.
And it's funny. So when I say like this is romanticized, it's also very like there's a lot of more sexual tension in this movie compared like it's non-existent. Yeah. Like there's no sexual tension. Like maybe, but really. Elizabeth is not like sexually attracted to Mr. Darcy.
Right. You don't hear all of that.
No. Whereas in this movie, it's very much like there's just tension between them.
They want each other.
Yeah. Even though they don't know why.
Yes.
I wrote they basically had sex. So then we meet the character of Mr. Collins.
Oh my god.
He is their cousin and he is set to inherit because he is technically the next male heir. He lives near Catherine, Lady Catherine. Yeah,
Lady Catherine de Bourgh.
And so she's just kind of like the big gal in that area, and he's just like very weirdly obsessed with her.
Yeah.
But anyway, he comes over for dinner.
Yeah.
And he's like compliments the boiled potatoes.
Oh my god! Which of your lovely daughters do I have to compliment for this? And the mother's like, we can afford a chef.
Yeah, we can have a chef. And Mr. Collins is just very like he's very awkward as well, and he has the worst haircut. Like it's like bangs, but they're like the tiniest
like
at the very top of his
inch.
forehead.
Yeah.
And he's just very dry and boring. He's just talking about like himself and Catherine de Bourgh
and religion. He's a pastor. Priest
exactly. And then so everyone's kind of like making fun, like not directly at him, but like on the side.
Very subtle.
He offers to read to them for an hour or two after dinner, and I'm like, oh my god,
imagine.
Couldn't be me. And then he like later on he takes the mother to the side and he's like, I am interested in Jane. And she's like, well, she's soon to be engaged, but Lizzie
is available. Mother,
she's a good pick. And he's like, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, ugh, a very agreeable alternative.
Right. Which I understand the mother in that she's like, he's gonna inherit this house and all this whatever.
Yeah.
And of course she's gonna offer up Lizzie, the next eldest. But do you not know your daughter at all? Well, I mean, if anyone, if she should have offered anyone, it would have been Mary.
Right. I'm like, Mary would have been great.
Which apparently the director, in his eyes, felt like Mary had a crush on Mr. Collins.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Which I was like, I don't know how I feel about that interpretation.
Yeah, because like at first I was like, I don't remember Mary having some sort of connection with him or whatever. I don't know, but it was like a very just subtle, subtle. Very, very subtle. So the next day they're in the square and like Lizzie drops like her handkerchief and is picked up by Wickham. And he's a lieutenant. He's like in a uniform, and he's very very handsome, very what did I compare him to? I said he was like kind of like a broke version of someone. Oh, I forget. Anyway, he has like long hair and like a ponytail, kind of like Adam from Beauty and the Beast, human beast. Yeah. And he's like very charming, and like he immediately catches Lizzie's eye. Yeah. And they're like in a store, and he's just, just like saying stuff, and Lizzie's just like very attracted to him because he's an attractive man. And he's very like nice with like the sisters, and they're fucking crazy because they're like, oh, soldiers. And Kitty and Lydia are
so annoying.
The worst.
So annoying.
So anyway, they're heading home. Wickham's with them, and they actually see Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy on the other side of like this lake on horseback. And they're like, oh, like, hello. And Mr. Darcy and Wickham just like look at each other. And you can tell there's some.
And Darcy and Bingley are headed to their house, to the Bennets. Yeah. And then once they find out that what's his face is
Wickham,
going there.
Yeah. Darcy just leaves.
Around and leaves.
Yeah, he just like leaves, and I think it was like Lydia who said it, or Kitty. She was like, "Oh, like can Wickham come to the party?" And he's like, "Yeah, he's invited as well."
Yeah, so, being friendly,
right? Being a nice man, because he doesn't. I guess he doesn't know the drama because Darcy doesn't talk about his life.
Yeah, that's true.
I really don't think he would have known. So obviously, there's something going on, and Lizzie notices that. Later on, Lizzie and him are kind of hanging out. And I want to point out, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it like man and a woman cannot be together?
Yes.
Okay. Was that another historical thing where they're like,
yeah, I'm pretty sure. Because nothing that I did in my readings, but from everything that I know of historical romances, you are not alone in the room with a man. And they do this multiple times. Like, at a point in time when she's alone with Darcy, too. Like, that is not done in this era.
Because then you would be indecent.
Yeah, you're basically ruined.
So that wasn't one thing I was noticing. I was like, because it was happening a lot. And I'm like, I don't think this would be allowed.
Yeah. Unless there's something I don't know about the early 1800s, but in all my other romance novels that I read, it's like, unless it's
family, like, you cannot.
Right. Yes. Unless it's someone who's supervising you, you have to have a chaperone.
Yes. So anyway, that doesn't matter, but if you're very picky about that type of stuff.
Which it literally does. Every single time it happens, it does pop into my mind, and I have to be like, it's okay. I like this interpretation. It's fine.
This is good. It's fine. It's fine. That was one thing my aunt really did not like about this movie. She was like, it just like, there's things that they shouldn't be doing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I get it,
I do. I totally get it.
Because it makes it more like, I don't know, sexy.
Yeah.
Because they're not supposed to be alone together. And you're like, oh my God, you guys are like alone. It's crazy. No one better catch you.
But I also feel like, I think that a lot of this is various interpretations of letters that are being sent. Because a lot of Pride and Prejudice is like letter. Like, you're reading full letters that characters are writing to one another.
Exactly, yeah.
And the director talks about it a couple of times. It's really hard to cinematize a letter.
It's true.
And so he tries to do like dramatic ways of incorporating the letters into it. But it's possible I could have been a letter between the two of them.
Okay. It probably was. I do remember her writing a lot of letters back and forth with Wickham. So anyway, they're talking and she does bring up, she's like, so like, what's your history like with Mr. Darcy? And Wickham is like, well, I've known him since infancy. And, his father saw me as a son as well. But then when his father, like, on his dying breath, he gave him, like, part of the estate. And then, like, the rectory of the estate? I don't know, something like that.
Yes, it's basically he would have become the minister.
Yeah. Darcy denied this request. And so Lizzie was kind of like, why? Like, why would he do that? And he's like, well, Darcy was jealous that his father loved me more than him. And it's like, even though, like, knowing, like, so far, like, Darcy probably kind of sucks in Lizzie's eyes. She's also kind of like, that just seems kind of off.
Right. Why would he love him more?
Right. So she's just like, oh, like, that's fucked up of him. Right. And so ends up, while they're all getting ready for ball, Lizzie ends up telling Jane, like, that story. And Jane's like, I don't believe Darcy would do something like that. Right. And Lizzie's like, well, Wickham's twice the man Darcy is. So at this point, Lizzie's completely on Wickham's side, which, to be fair, like, why not?
That's all she knows. She hasn't really had a relationship with Darcy at this point.
No, like, at this point, Darcy kind of sucks. So he's just, like, a handsome, brooding son of a bitch.
Exactly. And in the book, you definitely have a lot more build-up of this relationship between her and Wickham. Like, it's definitely, like, in the movie, it's much more of a side plot. But in the book, it is, like, she really almost marries him.
Yeah, they get very close. So like in this movie, it's very much like not as big of a thing, but she really gets like almost like falls for him.
Yeah.
Okay, the day of the ball, Mr. Collins is there with his awful haircut. The place is packed,
dude.
It's popping, and Mr. Bingley is like so excited to see Jane. He's like a little puppy dog.
I know.
And she's excited, but she's very more reserved, like she's just a very shy person. So then like Lizzie's kind of like looking around and she's like looking for Wickham, and she's asking around, and people are like, oh, he's been like detained, he's not at the party, unfortunately. So then Mr. Collins goes up to Lizzie to ask her for a dance. And he's like, I've been complimented on the lightness of my feet. And I'm like, he's such a nerd.
He's such a nerd.
And like they're dancing, and Jane is also dancing like next to him. So they're both like, Lizzie and Jane are just making faces at each other. And Colin's just like, every time he talks, when they separate, he'll stop. And then they get together, he like starts talking again. It's just like such a funny like scene.
Collins is the goofiest character of all time.
Dude, he is so like, he's so funny.
Like, I love that interpretation of him because a lot of interpretations of him are like pompous and like whatever. I love this goofiness.
I know, it was such a different, because at first I was like, I don't know if I like Mr. Collins in this movie, but as like, especially by this point, I'm like, oh, he's great. Like he's just like a different take, like you said, like before, like especially the BBC one, he's just like this gross dude, and it's like, ugh, like no one wants to marry this guy, but this Collins is just like, I don't know. He's just like a goofy kind of.
He's probably got a little bit of a good heart.
Yeah, like socially awkward. And so he's dancing, trying to show off to Lizzie, and she ends up like getting away from him. And then
you see the scene? Did you catch? And you might go over this in a second, but where Charlotte gives him the up and down.
Oh, I don't know.
So I only saw it because of the director's cut where he talks about basically Charlotte is doing a little plotting of her own at this point, and she sees Mr. Collins, and if you look, she looks him up, down, or down, up, and then down again, and then she turns away.
Oh, wow. No, I did not notice that part. So okay.
Next time.
I was wondering, like, because
they obviously don't do anything in the movie with all of a sudden you just find out the next thing. And then in the book I can't really remember how that goes, but I'm sure there's more of a build up to it. It's not as like pow.
Exactly.
But this was like his there's a lot of nuance.
Okay. Yeah, no, I did not notice that part. That's a cool
I didn't notice it until this past time, and I've watched this movie 400 million times.
Wow. No, that's funny though. I can't imagine anyone looking Mr. Collins up and down like that. But hey, Charlotte she was looking for marriage.
She's 29 years old, no prospects, no money.
Burden to my family. Same girl, join the fucking club.
Yep.
So anyway, Lizzie runs into Darcy and he's like, "Can I have the next dance?" And she's like, "Yes." And then like walks away. She's like, "What the fuck?" She's like, "Why did I say yes?" And her and Caroline are just like laughing about it. She's like, "Why did I agree to that?" But it's obviously because there's attention. Yeah, I mean, I feel like you have to say yes. Yes. So
and it's kind of cute because you think like last time they were at a dance together, she said, "How do you want to get a girl's attention?"
Right.
Or he said, "How do you get someone's attention?" She's like, "Dancing."
Yeah.
And now he wants.
So he's like, "I will dance with you." So very cute. And I remember first reading this in the book, and I was like, oh my god, he's dancing with her.
Dude, literally every subtle thing. And I was trying to explain to Travis, I was like, you don't understand, like, when it's like this and they just have that like little connection and you're like
yeah, it's and it just works in this time period because there was no room for that type of like the connection was dancing. Like
it's literally the only time you really touched.
Yeah, you can't be hugging people, like even like supposed to have a chaperone, like it's like you can't do that. So like when you're dancing, the subtleties, like the hand touches of being guided to the carriage, it's like,
and it's even like because for us nowadays, like a slow dance, that would never happen. That would be the closest you could get to a slow dance would be a waltz, and it is not the done thing to waltz with someone you're not engaged to. I think you can do. I think if you're waltzing with someone, you're basically intending to become engaged to them because you are up in their business.
Yeah. That you cannot be doing that. Yes. Anyway, they go to dance. And while they're dancing, they like have a conversation. They're talking a little bit. Lizzie's doing more to talking, but Darcy's talking too. And Wickham's brought up, and he is kind of like, "Why? You know, what do you want to know? Like, what are you trying to know about my business?"
About that? Yeah.
Yeah, and she like gets really irritated because she really likes Wickham, and so she just kind of like leaves, like frustrated. So another failed conversation between them. She goes to leave and Mr. Collins like, "I didn't realize you knew Mr. Darcy, that's the nephew of Catherine." And he goes up to him and this scene's so funny.
Apparently this is just like a gag that the two of them did while filming. Like it was not planned or
it's whatever. So funny because Mr. Collins is like half Darcy's height and like he's just like trying to tap on his shoulder. And Mr. Darcy's just like standing there like faced away. Yeah, and he's like and he like does that really loud and people just like stop and look and Mr. Darcy just turns at him. Dude. It's like, "Oh, hello." And like
and he almost like hits him in the head with his elbow. Like he has to move backwards.
It's a great little scene.
So good.
So so he's just like very excited to talk to him. So then Mary is off playing the piano and singing, and it's awful, poor thing.
A horrible job.
And she like you see her crying to her dad. She's like, "I've been practicing all week."
Right.
And the dad basically is like, "Let's give other people."
I know because everyone's like laughing at her, and he's trying to get. He basically is like in this moment. He's like his daughter is making an embarrassment of herself, and he doesn't want her to. You know, have people talking about her behind her back. And so he stops it, but that hurts her feelings.
So he's like so comforting her, poor thing. And then Mrs. Bennet is just bragging about Jane's future marriage. And I'm
talking about how much Bingley made.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah. She's just ruining things for herself because who walks by but Mr. Darcy?
He's catching it all. So then again, Lizzie and Jane are talking about Bingley, and Lizzie's like, "He's so into you." And Jane's like, "You know, I don't know." And but it's obvious he's so into her. But the next day Mr. Collins wants to have a private discussion with Lizzie. And she's like, no, like don't leave.
Mom, Jane, don't leave.
They're like, "Don't leave." And Mrs. Bennet's like, get out, everyone get out. And so, of course, Mr. Collins, he takes out this, like, flower, and it just looks like something he picked out, like a weed he picked out front. and he goes to propose to her, and she's like, no, and he's like, well,
I know it's the dumb thing for girls to say no the first time,
and she had to say no, I think 3 times for him to really be like, oh, and she has to like run out of the house, and I'm like, bro, like she said no like 3 times. She like runs out, and then Mrs. Bennet's like running after her, and it's just like all a disaster.
Yeah, Mrs. Bennett is like,
she's so upset.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, she's so upset at this, and she goes to Mr. Bennett. She's like, tell Lizzie she has to say yes to Mr. Collins. Tell her. And so they go to like see Lizzie, and you know, the mom's like, I'll never speak to you again. I'll never see you again. And the dad's like, your mother, you know, if you marry Mr. Collins, if you don't marry Mr. Collins, your mother will never see you again. But if you marry Mr. Collins, I will never speak to you again. And Lizzie's just like very happy, and Mrs. Bennett is upset. But it's like true. It's like he doesn't want any of his daughters to just be married off like that, and especially Lizzie.
Lizzie is his favorite.
It's his favorite daughter. It's not made super obvious in this adaptation.
At the end, you can tell.
Yeah. Because you can tell,
because he says at the very end, like, I wouldn't have parted with you for anyone else, and he obviously did not say that to Jane, but
no, because obviously Lizzie is a little different, where she's
more bookish, and
she very much wants love, and there's a lot more conversation with her and her dad in the book and the BBC series, or you know, they talk more, and like he's just very like, he worries for her a lot, so he obviously did not want her to marry Mr. Collins. So then Lizzie comes home, and she sees Jane reading a letter, and she's very upset, and she finds out that Mr. Bingley's leaving for Netherfield. He's leaving.
They're
Netherfield.
Closing up Netherfield.
Yes.
They're going back to town, which is London.
Yeah. And they pretty much say like, oh, Mr. Darcy's just impatient to see like his sister, and then Lizzie thinks that Caroline, Bingley's sister, is forcing him away, and
but it's really like, if he was intending to marry her, he would have proposed by this point. He's not going to leave, because you also run the risk. Back then, it's kind of first come, first serve.
It really is. Like, whoever proposes first. You pretty much dance once, and it's like, you propose.
Yeah, make a choice.
Yeah. So Jane is like, you know, like, he didn't really love me and things like that. And so she ends up going to her aunt and uncle's to London. Mrs. Bennet's like, get your ass out of here.
I think actually it was
was it Jane's decision?
Lizzie who said, you should just go to London, make it known that you're in London.
You're right.
And I bet he's going to come to you.
Yeah, you're right. Because, she's very convinced that Mr. Bingley loves her. Then Charlotte arrives to see Lizzie, and she lets her know that she's been engaged to Mr. Collins. And Lizzie's like, but he's ridiculous.
Right.
And Charlotte's like, I'm thankful. And it's like a sad moment, because she's like, I don't have like, you know, now I have a home. I can be somewhere. Like,
she's basically like, I don't have the privileges you have. Like, like, and
she's becoming an old maid. She's 27.
Yes. And she's like, she doesn't have anyone else who's looking at her in that way. She doesn't want to live with her parents for the rest of her life. No. And, you know, there's not a lot of other choices out there.
Yeah. And she's like, you know, I don't want you to judge me. And it's like, it's true. Like, you shouldn't judge someone that wants that type of safety.
And that's I think that's the, like, as much as we romanticize historical fiction and all that stuff, like, when it comes down to it, you are playing this gamble of like who you choose to marry.
This is a shitty era for women.
Right, exactly. Like, a man can wait as long as he wants, but a woman, it's like, you're hedging your bets. You're like, okay, is there someone else who's gonna propose to me, or is this the best I'm gonna get? Yeah,
if you were like an only daughter or a group of sisters and you were lower class, you were fucked, like, basically.
Right.
Then Lizzie, it kind of is like a scene where she's like writing a letter. She's to Charlotte, or she's like on her way to see her, because Charlotte wanted her to come by. And Mr. Collins talking about his garden he's very proud of. And Caroline or Charlotte just takes Lizzie away immediately, and they go into a room to talk.
It's her own private
room, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So then Lady Catherine actually comes by, and Mr. Collins is so excited.
He's like knocking on the window. Lady Catherine's here.
He's like, we received an invite to visit Rossings. And he's like, wear whatever is best, like, that you brought.
He's like, Lizzie, don't worry about the garbage sack that you are in right now. I know that you don't have good taste in clothes. Just put on your best dress.
He just like calls her out. I'm like, bro, leave her be.
Right.
So they go.
I think he says, Lady Catherine de Bourgh has never been opposed to the truly humbled.
Yeah, to the truly humbled. Yep, exactly. So they go meet this Lady Catherine, and she's very like
Dame Judi Dench.
Yes. Which the director wanted her because he said he loves when she plays a bitch.
Yeah.
So
she did a good job.
She is. So it's her, and then next to her is her daughter, and her daughter's like wearing these gross little glasses, right. But she seems very just like
because she's sickly. She's supposed to be sickly. I don't know what's wrong with. I forget. They go into it more in the book, I think.
They do, and I forget. So it's her, and then Mr. Darcy's just hanging out in the corner.
Yeah, all of a sudden you turn and whoop,
he just like appears. And Lizzie's like, oh, like I didn't realize you would be here. And he's like, oh, I'm a guest. And Catherine's like, y'all know each other? Mm-hmm. And Lizzie's like, oh, like we met. Nothing crazy. Yeah. And so
he's just in love with me and I'm in love with him.
It's fine. So they have dinner together, and Lizzie ends up sitting next to Mr. Darcy because Catherine's like, Mr. Collins, you can't sit next to your wife, which is like weird.
I feel like I should have looked that up. I don't know what rule that is, but she was like, yeah, that's not the dumb thing.
I feel like they're married, so it should be okay, but I don't know.
But I don't know. It almost felt like she was setting up, like, you would have thought she would have been doing it in a way to get Darcy to sit next to her daughter. Yeah. But no, that's not really what happened.
I don't know. It could have been like she wanted Lizzie to be closer so she can grind her.
That's true.
Or she does. Well, grind her with questions. Not like a dance. It would have been funny. That would have been so she's pretty much like, oh, do you know piano? Mm-hmm. And Lizzie's like, not that well. Her. Yeah, and
you can see like Lizzie has not been able to have a bite of her soup yet.
Yeah, like she's just immediately just asking her all these things.
How many sisters do you have? How many are on society? Why are there that many out? How old are you?
Yeah, she's like, do you draw? She's like, no. She's like what do you fucking do then? Right. And you can tell Darcy's like,
governess? Yeah.
He's like, yo, chill the fuck out. But he doesn't say anything, obviously. And Lizzie's like, she's sticking up for herself, fine. You know, she's just pretty much like, I don't know what to fucking tell you, bitch.
Right. I feel like I'm wondering if the idea was to try to get Lizzie looking unappealing to Darcy.
I don't know. I feel
Unless
like
she was just trying to make her feel like shit.
I think it was just, well, it could have been that. It could have been that, you know, because Catherine, she was just like asking her all these questions. And for me, I thought like maybe she was just trying to get to know Lizzie and then realize she's not of the same society. Yeah. And she was just like, oh, like we shouldn't. Yeah. But it could have also
truly humble.
Yeah, it could have also just been like she wanted her to look bad in front of Darcy, because then they go to like a sitting area and she asked Lizzie to play piano, and Lizzie's like, I cannot, like I'm not good.
I wasn't joking.
Yeah, and they were like, no, like go play. Mr. Collins is like, you need to go play. So she starts playing the piano, and she's doing a pretty good job. Like she's not bad.
I don't think she's bad. In the director's notes, he's like, I love how bad she plays, and I'm like, I don't think she was that bad, but she does have discordant notes. Like it's definitely like compared to Georgiana or something.
She's just okay. You can tell she just knows a little bit. And so Darcy kind of like comes up to her and his friend's like, oh, like, you know, how did you meet? Like, what do you think of my friend, like, when you met him? And she was like, well, he danced with no one. And Darcy's like, I didn't know anyone. He's like, I have a hard time speaking with people I don't know. I'm like, okay. And she's like, well, maybe you should practice. Yes, yeah. And she's just like not taking any shit from him. Like, no excuses from him. Yes. Which is fair. Like, okay. Like, I don't know what to fucking tell you, dude.
Right. And he just keeps staring at her.
He is like, he's just staring at her.
Into her.
And so Lizzie's writing to Jane, and Darcy just like bursts in the room.
Oh my god, I love this.
And this is much. I think it was an ode to the original first proposal, right? Because the original way the first proposal was done was in the room like that. He came into the room and said that. God. Do you not remember?
No.
Oh my god, no,
Megan.
There's no way. Why? It's so good. I cannot believe that.
I can't either. I'm sorry.
Oh my god. Okay, we'll get to it. I'm just saying, like, I think this was an ode to that because this proposal is different. Yeah.
Okay.
So he like bursts into a room.
Well, because he doesn't officially propose, but he wants to.
No. Yeah. So that's why I'm saying, like, I think it was like.
Yes, that makes sense.
So he comes into the room just like quickly, and Lizzie's just like, hello, and he's like, it's a nice house. And she's like, do you want to sit down?
Like, shaking. He is.
Yeah, he's very nervous. She's like, do you want to sit down? And he just like. You can see he's conflicted with something. Yeah. And then someone comes into the house and he just runs out.
Yes.
And then it was Caroline. She's like, what'd you do to him? Yeah. Lizzie's like, oh no. Right. It was just like a weird moment. And then they're like in church and Mr. Collins is speaking and he like weirdly says intercourse, but he meant to say like the intercourse between friendship. And I'm like, Collins, stop. He's too much. So Lizzie is sitting next to Darcy's friend and they talk a little bit about him. And so the friend is like, anyone would be lucky to be with him. Like, he's a loyal companion, blah, blah, blah. He even recently saved his friend from an impudent marriage. And Lizzie's like, who the fuck was that friend?
Yep. Yeah.
And he was like,
right now.
Mr. Bingley. And she was like, why? And he's like, well, he said that there were strong objections and like because of like the family, like obviously because of the family and all this stuff. And Lizzie's like devastated.
Yeah, of course.
So she runs out of the church. She's just like upset hearing this. It's raining. There's all wet. And I like the way they did this proposal. I still prefer the original.
I love
but it is good because it's like I said, it's very much like this movie's just very more sexual tension compared to the original, which is a very funny scene, to be honest.
Yeah.
So she's devastated, and Darcy just like pops out of nowhere again, and he's all wet too, and he's just like, he fucking proposes to her. He's like, I love you most ardently.
Right.
I even though our societal statuses are too big, and you're pretty much, he says like, you're poor, I'm not, I don't care.
He says like, I hate your family.
Yeah, he just like rips on her family and like her broke status, and she's just like, hello. And he's like, I love you, and she's like, oh, you're the last man in the world I would marry.
Because I wonder how she would have reacted had it happened before she found out about her sister. Like, I still don't know that
I think she would have.
Yes,
yeah, I think she still would have said no.
But I don't think she would have been like, I literally hate your very guts.
Yeah, because she brings up that why would I marry someone that like ruined everything for my sister. Yeah. And he's like, well, your sister like felt indifferent to Mr. Bingley, so that's why I stopped it. And she's like, she's shy. Like, what are you talking about? And then she like brings up like Wickham, and he's like, what do you like know about that? Like, you don't know anything about any of that situation. Yes. And they're like all in each other's face.
They are going for it.
And like he just like goes to like almost kiss her, and I was like, oh my god,
like, do it.
I was like, oh my god, and he like walks away. It was just like a very tense moment. But the reason why I like the original a little bit, like I said, I do like this rendition of it. I think it was a very interesting and different take on it. Very, very sexy, very romantic. Right. But the original, he walks in a room like that the same way, awkwardly. But he's just like, he says the same proposal, but he's just like really nervous, and like it's awkward because it's just in this room, and Lizzie just like was writing to Jane and is just staring at him. God. And he's just like, I love you. Like the BBC one, like I love Colin Firth as Mr. Darcy, because the BBC one, he's just like, I love you. Like he's like embarrassed to say it. And it's horrid, and it's so funny. It's so funny. It's definitely not sexy. Yeah. And Lizzie's just like, go get the fuck away from me. What are you doing? But yeah, so that's like a big difference.
Okay.
So
I feel like I'm so disappointed in myself for not remembering.
It's such a funny moment. I just like, for me, it's like such a crazy moment. You have to like reread it. Yeah,
I'm literally going to this week. I should
reread
have
it
done
or
in preparation.
Watch the BBC like that clip because it's word for word. But anyway, okay. So
can you please delete any reference to me not knowing any lore of Pride and Prejudice, because this just doesn't look good for my image.
We have to know everything.
I must be an expert, and anyone who knows more than me is wrong.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so pretty much like that night, Lizzie's just like at home. Like, not at home. She's at the Collins home. She's very just like confused after everything. And Darcy actually comes in and drops a letter off. And he just like, and then he like walks away.
I love a disheveled Darcy.
I know. He definitely looks a lot hotter when he's like messy.
Oh yeah.
It's why the last scene is like super impactful.
Yeah, it's because I'm like, wait, this is the most attractive you've ever been in your whole life.
I was like, hold up.
Wait,
just stand right there. Yeah, just stand right there. Don't move. So this letter is super important. It addresses 2 offenses against him.
I like how you're reading it like you're paraphrasing.
It's what he says. So first of all, it is true that him and Wickham grew up together. The father loved him like a son. The father left him a lot of money and the portion of the estate that he had, but he fucking gambled it all.
Yeah, because Wickham's a little bitch.
He's a little bitch.
Basically, the dad was like, yeah, I am going to have him have the vicarage or whatever it is. And then Wickham's like, I ain't no bitch. Yeah. Don't make me work for my money. Just give me this. He basically was like, just give me whatever the value of a life being paid on this job would be. and I'm gonna go. And so he goes, gambles it all away. Goodbye. Yep. And then it goes, give me more money, Darcy.
Yeah, it's Mr. Darcy. Darcy's like, no, fuck off. And then so Wickham just cut off fucking connections with him. Right. So that was the first thing. So it's like, he's a bitch. And he tried to elope with Darcy's sister. Yup. And she was 15. Yup. And the second he found out he would not inherit any of the money she has, he fucking left. Yep. And it just fucked her up, of course, because she's a young girl.
When I first read it, I thought there were undertones of, like, sexual harassment or something.
To be honest, it feels more like that in the book.
Right. In the book, you get the idea that maybe he took her virtue.
Yeah. I think it's hinted on that, whereas in this movie, it's not. Yes. But I want to say it was definitely hinted on that, and that, like, it pretty much fucked.
Because that would be why Darcy never says anything, because it's not like a pride thing for Georgiana. It's a literal, like, she would never be able to get married if it was found out that she had relations with this man.
Exactly. And I do think it was that. And it was because obviously it's more, they were seen together without a chaperone. Mm-hmm. Like, that was like, they weren't seen, but like they were off together without a chaperone, and that's a big no. Mm-hmm. So it was a big fucking deal. Yeah. So that is the one thing for Wickham. So he's awful. And then as for Bingley, he pretty much just said, like, he was trying to help a friend. And that was, like, the most in the letter. But it pretty much came down to, like, he, you know, didn't feel like Jane was giving that much liking back. He wasn't getting that from Jane. And he felt like the mother was being too pushy about the money thing. Like, he did not trust the family. He felt like Jane was just going to marry him for money. And he really did not want that for Bingley, because he can tell Bingley liked her. He was truly trying to help a friend. But he, you know, fucked up. But you know, it's not his fault.
Right, he's willing to own that.
Yeah, exactly. So Lizzie's like distraught. She's like crying. She's like, there's too much happening right now. But she ends up going home and she sees Jane. And she's just like, oh, I'm like over Bingley. Like, it's fine.
But she like totally is.
She's totally not. I mean, who would be? So Lydia gets invited to go to Brighton. Yes. Brighton with the Forsters, and I guess they're like,
they're in the book more, but in this, you know, they're just like in passing. Yeah, but it's basically their family friends. Yes, they're going with the infantry up to Brighton, and they're like, listen, we'll take Lydia with us, and
for some fucking reason, Kitty's throwing a hissy fit.
I think the Mrs. Forrester is like friends with Lydia.
Okay.
I think, and so she like, they want to be gal pals in Brighton.
Lizzie's begging the dad to not let Lydia go, because now she knows what she knows about Wickham. She's like, please do not let her go. Like, you know, she's gonna make a fool of herself, blah blah blah. And the dad's like, I don't think she'll catch the eye of any man there. Like, she's young, like, whatever.
He basically thinks that this is going to, her foolishness, and you know, she's annoying, she's going to basically he thinks she's gonna get laughed out of town. Yeah. And that it's gonna teach her a lesson, kind of wake her up. Maybe she'll stop being annoying. Well, joke's on him.
Lizzie ends up traveling with her aunt and uncle, and they're near Pemberley, and they're like, oh, we should go see. And Lizzie's like, no. And Pemberley, is Darcy's home. And they're like, well, like, you know, those
He's not home.
Yeah, they were like, you know, those people, like, they're usually not there anyway. We're like, we should see it. So they convince Lizzie to go, and it's like stunning. And they go inside, and Lizzie's just like obsessed. Can you
also imagine if like you're like not in your house, but people?
I know. I literally made a note. I'm like, what? Like, I can't believe people just take tours of these estates. It's like, it's still someone's home. Like that's crazy. Someone lives there.
Imagine you just like getting out of the bath.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, look at the tile work in this bathroom. It's like crazy. So they're like walking around. She's looking at the different statues and stuff, and she sees like a bust of Mr. Darcy's face. And you know, she's like emotional. She just like knows she's like judged him too quickly.
She could have had all this.
She could have had all of that. Yeah. And Lizzie gets away from them a bit, and she hears piano playing. It's the same song she was playing earlier, which is the theme of the movie. Yes. And she ends up going, and she sees like a young girl playing, and then like Mr. Darcy like comes in on the side and like hugs her, and she's like peeking through the door frame, and Mr. Darcy like looks. It's like cartoony. He looks and sees her, and she immediately like runs, which is fair, because I would have been Oh my God, I would have so far gone. He would never see me ever again.
No.
And he catches up to her. She's like, I'm so embarrassed. She's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't think, we thought you weren't home. And he's like, it's fine. It's like, whatever.
She's like, we're leaving tomorrow.
Yeah.
And he's like, tomorrow?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like funny in like the BBC one, he literally comes out of like a river dripping wet and runs into her.
It's honestly,
it's pretty hot.
But
that would be so embarrassing. It is the best part. And I would be, oh my God, I don't even know how I'd react. Both are like just running into him in general. I'm like, I'm so embarrassed. Like, after all this, you proposed to me. I said no. I called you a bitch, and then you give me a letter.
You told me all these wonderful things that.
Yeah, and then I run into it again. Like,
I'd be like, I'm sorry. I love you.
No.
I'll take you back.
Oof, it is too much. So she ends up like leaving, but then, and they talk like a tiny bit, and she kind of stays like, oh, I'm staying in the town. Like, I'm staying here. Yeah. He ends up going and talking to the aunt and uncle, and Lizzie's kind of hiding back. Yeah. And they were like, oh, that was Mr. Darcy. He asked if we can dine with them tomorrow. And Lizzie's like, oh, great. Love it.
And they're like, you don't mind postponing voyage by a day? And she's like, this is my hell.
Yeah, this is my hell. This is what she gets for being so judgy. Yep. But also, Mr. Darcy made it difficult, so.
Yeah, I mean,
they're both to blame.
Both prejudiced,
yep, they're both to blame. So they go, and Georgiana's so excited to meet Lizzie. And she's like, Mr. Darcy's told me so much about you. And he's just like.
Such a good piano player. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God, Darcy.
I know. And his face is just like, ugh. But he's like so, you can tell he just loves his sister so much. And that's like the first time you really see him like smile genuinely. It's really cute. And Lizzie gets along well with the sister, and Darcy's like, oh, like, do you fish? He's talking to the uncle. He's like, oh, you can go out to the pond and go fish. And Georgiana like hangs out with Lizzie. And then they all go back to the inn area, and a woman's like, oh, you have a letter to Lizzie. And she reads it, and like everyone's kind of like sitting waiting to hear what the letter is. And Lizzie like comes out crying, and she like walks away again. And she comes back in, and you find out that Lydia ran off with Wickham.
Yep.
Woo.
Unmarried.
And this is devastating, not just for Lydia, but for the whole family, because that just tarnishes the reputation of everyone.
Because literally, like, none of the other girls will be able to find husbands.
Yes.
Because
of Lydia being a dumb bitch.
Yeah.
So it's a horrifying thing to find out. And so the uncle, they don't know where she is. The dad went out to look for her, and uncle's like, I'll go look for her. And Mr. Darcy's like, it's my fault. Like, I should have said something. Lizzie's like, no, like, I should have been more open with my sisters. And she's obviously just like so upset. And Mr. Darcy's like, I'm going to fucking kill anyone for you. He doesn't say that, but his eyes say it. So
his soul speaks to her soul.
Yeah. So he leaves, and they all end up going back home, and they get a letter from their uncle. And it's it's addressed to the father. And they say that Lydia's been found, and that £100 a year would allow Wickham to marry her. And the father's like, there's no way. Like, the uncle had to give him a lot of money to accept that payment.
Right. And Jane was like talking to Lizzie and was like, how much could it have really been? And Jane was like, he would be a fool to take anything less than $10,000. Yeah. Which, as we've learned, is anywhere from 1 to 16 million.
Just fucking sane. So they're all just like, oh my God, we owe our uncle so much, blah, blah, blah. And then the mother's just like happy that Lydia's just getting married. And like, she was devastated. And then she's like, oh, like, this is great. This is great. They're getting married,
blah, blah, blah.
And it's like, to be fair, like, yeah, it is a good thing because it saves everyone. Right. But it's like, dude, like, I'd be a little worried. Yeah. So then Lydia shows up. God, she is obnoxious.
Horrid as ever.
She's like, oh, hello. What? I'm just like, it's crazy being married. Look at my ring. Right. And it's just like, girl.
The voice you just did was perfect. That's exactly. It's this breathy.
And it's like, bitch, he got paid to marry your ass.
Right. You know that it's not going to be a good marriage. One of them's going to kill the other by the end of it.
Exactly. So Lydia is pretty much bragging about being engaged, like, or being married. She's just like, oh, it's like so crazy. Hopefully you all could find someone. And I'm like, shut the fuck up.
You're literally so annoying.
Yeah. And Wickham's like, oh, we're like set to go in like a week to the station or whatever. And then Lydia like brings up Mr. Darcy accidentally. And Lizzie's like, what do you mean, Mr. Darcy? He was at your wedding? And she was like, oh.
Did I say that?
Oops. Well, he paid for the wedding and Wickham's commission and everything, but he said not to tell anyone.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, in Lizzie's face, she's just like, oh my God.
Right.
So you find out it wasn't the uncle. Darcy paid Wiggum a ton of money, paid for the wedding, did everything so that Lydia and, well, it was all for Lizzie. So Lizzie doesn't get fucked over by Lydia's stupid choices.
Yeah.
So then the Bennetts get word that Mr. Bingley's coming back to the area. And the mom's like, I don't care, why should we be interested? It's not a big deal.
The mom is like, because she's thinking like, this is this asshole, whatever.
Right, yeah. And Jane's also like, I don't care. But then Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy show up at the house. And this part's so funny because they're all just like hanging out. And I forget who says it. They're like, oh my God, like, Mr. Darcy and Mr. Bingley are like coming, and they're all like, act natural, act natural. And they're all like cleaning up real quick.
It's like such the epitome of what my life, like who I am as a person.
It is just so funny. They're cleaning up, and like everyone's like pretending to do something.
Yes.
And they get brought in, and Mr. Bingley's just like very like flustered, and they're like, oh, like, it's great to see you again.
And then, of course, the mom immediately, like, steamrolls right in.
Right. She's, like, not letting him talk. She's not letting anyone talk, really. And Lizzie, like, does ask, like, Mr. Darcy how he is. And he's, like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And he says that he's staying for a few weeks for shooting. And then he, like, leaves. He's like, I have to go. And Darcy's like, what? And they just, like, both leave. But then you see them, like,
oh my God,
nearby, and Mr. Bingley's like trying to gain the courage, and so he's like practicing like with Mr. Darcy. I'm like, it's so cute. I love it. And then he comes back and he's like, I'd like to speak to Miss Bennet alone. And they're all like, oh shit, it's happening. And so they all go out, and they're all of course waiting at the door. I'm like, leave him alone.
Yes.
And then he like proposes to her, and she says yes, obviously. And literally the second she says yes, the mother's like, finally, and, like, walks in, and I'm like, oh my God, like, this poor man is marrying into this fucking family.
Yes.
So then, that's all happening.
Did you know, I didn't know this until this week, the actor who plays Bingley and the actress who plays Jane were
they
exes?
Used to date, yeah.
Oh my God, could you imagine filming
I saw that
scene? Having your ex propose to you? Goodbye.
Yeah, the director did ask if it was okay. They're like, yeah, like, it's totally fine.
Yeah, but that would have...
Yeah, that's really funny. So anyway, Lizzie's like outside, or she kind of like goes outside, and she's still just very like just confused and conflicted
I think she's
with
just
everything.
Thinking of like what she could have had, and like it's that one that got away thing. Because it is a different time. Like she really couldn't chase after him. It's not the done thing.
Exactly. Like seeing him again, it's just like upsetting.
And he walks away, and he's walking away for good.
Yeah.
And you can see he looks back a couple times, and it's almost like he's saying goodbye to everything they could have had.
Yeah. So then, Lady Catherine shows up super late at night.
This bitch.
And she's like, I want to speak to Elizabeth alone. And so they talk alone. Of course, everyone's eavesdropping still.
Right, again.
But she's like, I heard that Mr. Darcy proposed to you. Is that a false rumor? And Lizzie's like, I don't know. He would not do that. And she's like, well, if he did, like, would you say no? She's like, don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm not gonna say no to that. Like, and Lizzie's pretty much just like standing her ground. She's like, I don't need to say that to you. And Catherine's like, well, he is engaged to my daughter. Like, that's been set up since infancy.
And she's like, if that's the case, then why are you worried about me being engaged to him? Because he's engaged.
Right. And Lady Catherine's like, cannot believe it. She's like, that's like, she could have strangled Lizzie to death, honestly, in this moment. But Lizzie pretty much is like, fuck you, bitch. Like, I don't care. And so that ends badly, but good for Lizzie.
Yes.
And then in the morning, most memorable scene, obviously.
Oh my God.
Okay. This is the one scene where it's the best version. Like, you can compare the other ones as much as you want. You can have your picks and of different scenes, but like, you cannot say this is not the best version of the scene because it was so fucking good. I'm like, this is perfect. It was done so well.
The heavens aligned, and they even like with the sun rising between them. That was not intentional.
Oh my God. It just happened. It is. Anyway, so Lizzie's walking out. It's like very early, misty, foggy. And she sees Darcy. He's strutting. His shirt is just open. You see, he's like such a slutty bitch, just strolling towards her, and his hair is just like, it is fantastic.
Yes,
fantastic.
I have.
Oh my God, I'm like, I had like chills.
I know.
Oh my God, damn. And he goes up to her and he tells her like he did everything for her, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And he's like, my feelings haven't changed for you.
And he was like, basically, after hearing you spoke to my aunt, like, I think
he realizes like, oh, maybe maybe there's a chance.
And he's like, if you say that like your feelings have not changed, I will leave and never speak to you again.
Yeah.
But if they have,
he's like, one word.
I love.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You have bewitched me, body and soul.
Yes.
Hello.
Oh my god.
Hello. Like, please. We would have made love
in
out
that
there.
field.
Yeah, in that field.
Dude, no man will ever say to me anything that will come close to you have bewitched me, body and soul, and I love you.
I'm gonna
Travis, you'll never compete with it.
I'm gonna like somehow write this in a way for Brett to find it. And if he writes in his vows, he loves me. But if he doesn't, he's a traitor.
There you go.
So I'm gonna find a way.
There you go. We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
We'll get back.
I'll let you know.
In,
I'll let
3 weeks.
So anyway, she pretty much goes up to him and she like holds his hand. She's like, your hands are cold, because he was walking, because she loves walking, so he walked for her and he does everything for her. And she like kisses his hand, and then they go like to the house, and Darcy like spoke to the father, and so then Lizzie goes to speak to him, and this scene was like so sweet. I know, this scene was so sweet with the dad, because the dad was like, I thought you hated him.
Yeah.
And she's like, I love him. She was like, I was wrong about him. And she does tell him like everything he did. And she's like, we're just like both so stubborn. And like Kiera's, the way she did this scene was so good, because like I just felt like she really just was so cute, and the dad's like emotional, and he's like, I have nothing to say, like, you love this man, you have my consent, all this stuff. And so they share like a hug. It's very sweet. And then everyone else is like, I thought she hated him. Like, what is happening? Which is fair, because nothing else is Lizzie has not said anything about like meeting him or seeing him again. She only brought something up to Jane, saying that like she was wrong, and that was the only thing she said about Mr. Darcy. So that happened, and then it skips, and this was my deleted scene, not the end, but like this clip specifically, because they're at the Pemberley and he's standing and he has like no his gripper's out, and she's like holding his ankle, and I thought it was the weirdest. Like, I was like, that's not sexy, and I'm like, get rid of that. Just that part.
Just that part. But the rest
is great.
Okay.
Just that, because I'm like, honestly, I don't know what deleted scene I could have other than him saying that she was like barely tolerable at the dance.
But
so it's
gives the build up.
Exactly.
But that scene is deleted in the UK version.
Yeah, there is a different ending, right?
Yes, they just end it right after the conversation with the dad.
Really? Yeah. Oh wow. Okay, because I know the BBC one added the wedding scene. They added them being like married. So anyway, they're like sitting together, and he keeps calling her dear, and she's like, don't call me that, because that's what my father calls my mother when he's cross with her. And he's like, well, what should I call you? And they said all these like this romantic cutesy shit. She's like, well, you can call me this and this. And she's like, you can call me Mr. Darcy when you're completely and
incandescently.
Yes, thank you, happy. And he's just like kissing her, like Mrs. Darcy, and like they kiss, and it's very, very, very romantic, very sweet. And that's how the movie ends.
Yes.
So wonderful.
Such a good movie.
It's so good. It's so good. So love interest, not answering.
Yeah.
Too
obvious.
Duh. Side character I put as Jane. I'd smash.
Yeah.
She's rad.
Yeah.
How likely to fall in love? 20. I'm sorry. Obviously. If a man did all that for me,
correct,
and was rich and hot,
correct,
bet,
correct.
What do I not have to fall in love with?
Are you kidding me?
Okay.
Absolutely, no problem. I'm in.
Yeah. Would you recommend this to a non-romance fan? Yes, I'd recommend any Pride and Prejudice.
Literally any person
iteration,
ever.
Anything to anyone.
Yeah.
Because, it's important. Yeah. Oh, the only fun fact is that, which I think my aunt named my cousin his middle name Darcy because of how much she loved it. So cute. And she wanted to name him Fitzwilliam.
Oh my
My
God.
uncle was like, no.
Absolutely not. How dare you?
But yeah, that's a funny fun fact. So
go ahead and actually, before we end this with your reading, I would like to say a special call out to someone, which is our number one listener, Colin.
Mr. Collins?
Yeah, Mr. Collins. Do not at me and tell me how much you hate Pride and Prejudice. I will stop the podcast and never record another episode again. This is your first and final warning.
Oh my
Thank
God.
You. Sorry for all of our other 20 listeners. Yes. Our friend Colin is the world's only
hater. Yeah.
Pride and Prejudice hater, and I think he does it just to be cute.
Yeah, he tries to be different and unique.
He's like,
what version did he read it?
I don't know.
Did he just watch the 2005 version?
Just every single time, anything. I don't know what he is actually seeing, because anytime he starts talking about it, I actually start seeing red and getting really heated and emotional about it. And so we've never had a real conversation because I cannot emotionally handle it.
We'll have to find out what he's actually done, because he might not have even actually read or seen anything.
I mean,
he's just a hater.
It would track. But I also feel like he's the type of person who would back up himself with evidence. So he probably watched something.
That's fair.
But he probably watched something with the sole purpose
to hate
of hating it.
Yeah. He's not like other girls.
Yeah, exactly. Gross. Anyway, your final rating?
6.
Thank you. That was beautiful. I couldn't have said it better myself. I was like, if she gives this anything less, I was like, I'll be nice.
No.
If she gives it 4.75 or higher, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
But if you I was like, there's no way.
I can't rate it less than 5. And like I said, I love the BBC version. I adore that version. I love Colin Firth, Mr. Darcy. But this movie is also really great. It's different, but it's very romantic. And it just makes you feel good.
It makes you feel good. And it's a movie, and it's not going to be as good as the book, and it's not going to have the same
everything
impact.
Super specific, but it's like this, we already got the best of the best. We got the 2005 version, and we got the BBC version.
Exactly. So what more did you ask for?
Yeah.
You have the short and to the point, and then you have the elongated version. Right. I just feel like
they can't be done better than that.
No one should even try.
Even though Netflix talked about it, even though they made that god awful.
After Sense and Sensibility, I cannot trust them. How dare they?
Well, it wasn't Sense. It was oh my God, what was it? The park one.
No.
Yeah. Did they do Sense and Sensibility too?
No, it was Sense and Sensibility, wasn't it?
No, it was the
No, it was not Mansfield Park.
Yeah.
No, it was Sense and Sensibility, the one that we watched together.
Yeah.
Where they were talking all modern.
Yeah. It was Mansfield Park.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Was it Persuasion? No. Wait, what am I thinking of?
No, Sense and Sensibility, the only version they have is this one.
Okay,
which is also
good.
You think it's Persuasion?
I think it's Persuasion.
You're right.
That one was
god awful. Horrid.
They should delete it.
They should delete it.
I never in my life have been so disappointed by a Jane Austen anything. It was,
you can't fuck it up. And they did. Somehow.
They did. And so that was horrible. And but then you look at and this wasn't Netflix, but Emma.
Oh, Emma. Emma's probably the best adaptation. Pride and Prejudice has my heart forever. But Emma was done so well. It was so good. And I feel like it was just
it just captured everything perfect. It was great.
And it was fun and quirky, and it was the book, but it was a cool spin. It just felt new, and you could just watch it at this age. Younger people can watch it and get into it.
I would watch any whoever that director was. I would watch any adaptation they do.
Yeah, let's find out.
Because that was gorgeous. We watched it together, and I was literally squealing and kicking my feet.
Dude, it was so good. Autumn de Wilde. Autumn de Wilde.
Oh, I was gonna say a man.
Oh man. Oh my God, that was the only movie they did. That's crazy.
Do another one.
Absolutely.
Excuse me. Can we start a petition?
Yeah.
I would watch a Pride and Prejudice that she did.
I would too.
But
agreed.
Any other, unless it's Pride and Prejudice gets a lot of spin-off thingies where it's it's the themes of Pride and Prejudice, but it's not Pride and Prejudice.
Exactly.
Which I think is better because you're just not gonna compete.
No, it's gonna be very difficult to compete with already what's come out.
Yeah. Jane Austen is a master.
Yeah.
She did the most beautiful work.
Mm-hmm.
And this was it's just such a great story.
It's great.
Anyway,
give it a chance if you haven't.
120,000% watch it.
She's great. Jane Austen's great. Anyway, we've
great.
talked for 200 hours.
We really have. So I think we've gone over 2 hours at this point. Hopefully there's a few things that I've said in there that you can cut out, because I was definitely embarrassing myself a little bit.
No.
But we do have to give snapshots for our next movies.
Oh, yes.
All right, so because we're trash humans who are really great at podcasting, neither of us created our snapshot for the next one. So we're going to do it off the cuff. And if you hate it, no one will be able to tell us for 6 weeks, because we are way in the future.
Woo. Okay, so my movie for Megan is called Ready or Not.
I don't know that one.
Ready or Not is a newer movie, and this woman...
It's like a game, isn't it? Where they're like, ready or not, here I come. No, it's not. Just kidding.
Kind of. So Grace, I would think that's her name.
She's pretty.
Yeah. So she gets married to the man of her dreams, but has to partake in a weird game with the family.
Ooh.
And has to survive until the morning. So
horrifying.
it's a fun one, I think. So I think you'll like it.
My movie for Demi.
Oh my God.
Is A Star Is Born. I'm so sorry.
Why? No.
And listen, there were others that could have fit in with the theme, right? But this is just...
No, you wanted me.
No, I don't.
To die.
Because I don't want to rewatch it.
I'm just gonna like complain so much about it that I end up like not crying. It won't bother me. Maybe I'll be fine. Do you know
what happens?
Yeah. I do.
You do?
I do. I don't know specifics, but I know enough about the story from like past iterations, and her fucking song spoiled it for me. So
well,
good times.
Trigger warning, like look up trigger warnings before you watch it if that's something, like if you're not worried about like spoilers or whatever, because there are some things that are very devastating.
And trigger warnings are in our descriptions for the episodes.
You,
so
Demi. So my snapshot for A Star Is Born is a young singer is discovered, and this is the story of her love between herself and a country singer, and it goes over basically his alcoholism and her rise to fame, and all of the pitfalls that go along
fun
with it.
Stuff. Yeah, I love that.
It's like this is a remake. It has Lady Gaga in it. It's like a classic. I feel like my little snapshot does not do it justice, because I did not write anything down beforehand. But no, I am not excited to watch it again. I'm glad I have a couple of weeks to really make myself do it. But basically, another reason why I forced you to do it is because when I was talking to my sisters about it, my little sister was like, you have to make her watch it. My sister watched it, I think almost, if not daily, it was weekly for months.
Oh my God.
She just liked to make herself cry.
No. Yeah. Well... That's cool. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be so fun.
You get to watch such a fun movie, and then I do not.
Your ones after this are going to be really fun. You're going to be living the dream.
You are too.
Okay, listen. I still feel like... this one, like, Brokeback Mountain did not hit your heart as much as I thought it could.
No.
This one is going to be my Barbarian for you.
Ugh, no.
Yeah, I think this one is. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just aiming to hurt you as much as you hurt me.
I know. I can't think of a romance movie that really hurt me. Atonement hurt me.
So now I don't want to watch that.
Yeah, that hurt me.
Okay. I hate being hurt.
Yeah.
It's why
that one will mess you up.
It's why so many of the ones I give you are rom-coms, because I'm like, you know what I feel like after this horror movie?
Yeah. So.
Yep.
Anyway.
Live, laugh, love.
Live, laugh, love. Do I end this?
Yep.
Okay. If you want to reach out to us for fun or whatever, you can email us at howdoyouwatchthis@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on Instagram and Threads at howdoyouwatchthis, and TikTok at howdoyouwatch, and Discord eventually, probably.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
Feeling cool.
Yeah, if you just give it a little search on there, if you don't find it, then maybe we don't exist. Who knows?
Who knows?
We changed our minds.
Anyway.
Bye.
Bye.